And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morin versus Hastings. Step forward, please.
Piano teacher Rebecca Morin is suing her former friend, Shannon Hastings, for the return of maternity clothes and baby's things. Shannon says the items were a gift.
Ms. Morin, according to what I read, you claim a loan to the defendant. And the loan was some maternity clothes and baby equipment because she was pregnant and you thought it would be a nice thing to loan her your stuff. You want it back. Ms. Hastings said there was never a loan of these things, that you gave them to her, and either she doesn't have them anymore or she feels as if she should be able to keep them. How did you know her?
We had several friends in common. I knew some people that lived across the street from her. They took piano lessons from me. I also knew her child care provider for her children. And that is how I met her.
What prompted you to make the loan of this baby equipment?
I had known the defendant for about 2 years. When I first met her, she was married to my witness here. They had 2 preschool-age little boys, and she had just found out that she had a brain tumor. Their family went through horrible things for the next couple of years. She was told by her doctor that she would not be able to have children, and she had given all her baby things away.
So far, is everything she said correct?
Not everything, not about how we met.
Is it urgently important?
No.
Good. So far, everything is about right.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Anyway, my heart went out to her when I found out that she was expecting a baby.
When was that, Mrs. Moore?
That would have been...
Fall of 2000.
Fall of 2000, yes, thank you.
Tell me what items you gave her.
I gave her a crib, I gave her an infant car seat, I gave her a toddler car seat, I gave her an exerciser. Then there was also a playpen, there was also a swing, and then all the maternity clothes as well.
How many children did you have?
I had 2.
Were you planning on having any more?
There wasn't a plan, no.
How many do you have now?
I'm expecting 1 in 2 weeks.
Look great.
Oh, thank you.
So now you want your things back for yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the maternity clothes you're not going to be able to use anymore anyway.
Correct.
But the other items you could use.
Certainly.
Will you use them?
Certainly.
Okay. So, I gather you're not married to the same husband anymore.
Well, the divorce is still
here.
pending, which is...
So you're separated?
Yes.
And the 3 children?
They live with me.
Your baby is how old?
2 years old, about 2 weeks ago.
Still use the crib?
Well, not that crib, but yes, he's still in a crib.
Where's the crib?
The big rail in the front broke, and so we had to get a new one out of the paper for like $50.
So you don't have it anymore?
Right.
Well, it went through 1, 2, 3 babies. Happened. Miss Morin wants the rest of her things. Why shouldn't she have them?
Well, basically, what was left out was that we met through the church, that it's a Baptist church that we went to. Upon filing for divorce, the church decided that they could no longer support me because I'm the devil's spawn. They don't believe in divorce, and so everybody basically just turned their back on me and said that if I followed through with the divorce, they could no longer support me.
When did you file for divorce?
Gosh, almost, it'll be 2 years this coming October.
2001.
He's very good with dates. He may be not so good with other things. I'm not
Right.
sure, I don't know, but he's
You got
dates.
that.
Okay.
I mean, they performed church discipline on me without even telling me, basically saying that no one could
Your
support
Honor,
me
that's
anymore.
not true.
That's what I was told. That's what I was told.
That is not true. And that has nothing to do with the case.
Well,
that's her perception of why you want your things back after 2 years.
Now, he was trying to get 50-50 custody, and we were having family services go through each of the homes. At this time, he only had Sam, the baby, and a playpen, no crib. So it was like 2 days before this family study was going to be performed, when he dropped off the children, he said Rebecca would like me to have the crib and things. And I said, well, then I'll talk to Rebecca.
Did you ever have a discussion with him about those things?
Yes.
Tell me about that conversation.
Before I ever loaned it to them, I had discussed it with the defendant. I had also discussed it with him that I wanted those things back.
The question is, had you told Mr. Hastings?
Correct.
That he could have these things instead of his wife?
Oh, no, I did not say that to him. I did tell him I would like them back. I told him I didn't need them right away because I wasn't due until April. And so after the first of the year, then I began asking for him for those things back. That was January of 2003.
Okay. What is it that you want him to testify to, Mr. Hastings? Tell me before he stands up, because I don't necessarily think it's a good idea for him to be testifying against his soon-to-be ex-wife. They have children together. If we can avoid that, that would be a good thing. So would you please tell me what it is that you think he can contribute to this case?
That it was a loan, and he's got an email here that he had exchanged with the defendant.
Oh, well, I'll see that.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Children didn't ask for you to get married, and the children didn't ask for you to get divorced. So you're supposed to make it most comfortable for the children, because in the words of my father, 2 innocent people shouldn't suffer for what 2 guilty people did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Morin says former friend Shannon Hastings won't return her maternity clothes and baby's things. Shannon says there was never an agreement to give the items back.
Are those what are left of her maternity clothes? I don't think she needs them anymore, but she should have them. Sure. So give them back to her. Ms. Hastings, having been through the drill of optimum utilization of maternity clothes, you know, they're sort of passed around from family to friends, right, so that you don't use an extra saucer just once for one child or 2 of yours. You can use it until it goes.
Right.
Use it as much as possible. But it seems to me at this point that Ms. Morin was very generous to make these things, let us say, available to you.
I agree.
Now, the crib is no longer there, so you can't have it back. And certainly there was no agreement, Ms. Morin, that she would replace anything that broke. Is that right?
No, but it was certainly understood that I wanted my things back.
Of course, but what happens if something broke?
Well, I would think she would have the courtesy to at least call me, return my calls, and
she
tell me it's
absolutely
broken.
should have. She absolutely should have. But I have a feeling there's lots more there. That
Yes.
She felt as if she was shunned by the church when she made a decision to divorce. It's been a difficult year or so between these 2 people, going back to court, issues of custody and all that entails. You know, do you send clean clothes or dirty clothes? When do you pick up? When do you drop off? All kinds of ridiculous things. With regard to that, and I digress for a moment, all I can say to you is children didn't ask for you to get married, and the children didn't ask for you to get divorced. So you're supposed to make it most comfortable for the children, because in the words of my father, 2 innocent people shouldn't suffer for what 2 guilty people did. Right?
Yep. Totally
So,
agreed.
You have 3 children. Try to make their lives as pleasant as possible, and you have to understand whoever is going to have primary custody should have a clear head. So if that's your wife, sir, if she's the primary custodian for the children, you don't want to make her crazy. And if he's going to be spending time with the children, a good deal of time with the children, which he absolutely should,
Definitely.
you shouldn't want to stretch him to the limit.
Right.
Also understood?
Definitely.
Okay. So that being said, and whether you've listened to it or not is irrelevant. Whatever you have left of the maternity equipment and child equipment, you should give back to her. She needs it now.
Now, can I say that she added here a playpen and a swing. The letter she sent me certified she never even stated those. I was never given a playpen and a swing. He has a playpen that the baby sleeps in. So I don't know if that's something that he got from her, but it's not in the letter either.
That's correct. He had 4 items, but he returned them to me within a week of me asking for them. She's never called me. I called her for 6 months.
The baby still sleeps in the playpen.
She has never returned my calls. She will communicate with me.
Okay. So what do you have left?
I've got an extra saucer.
Good. That goes back.
That's fine. And I've got a car seat. He had the infant car seat. He had the playpen and the swing that I never had.
So you have those 2 items?
Yes.
And these clothes. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to clean them up really nicely because they are in otherwise good condition.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And drop them off.
Okay.
Easy. Okay?
Your Honor, can I say that these aren't even my clothes? These are not my clothes.
Listen to me. The maternity clothes you didn't ask for 2 years. I mean, I didn't want to get into this with you. You seem like a really nice lady. The maternity clothes you didn't ask for in 2 years. You don't need them now, certainly, because you're going to have your baby.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
She finished using them 2 years ago. If you had wanted them back, you shouldn't have called her 6 months ago. You should have called her 2 years ago, year and a half ago.
More
and
than
said,
that.
Listen, 2000, now we're in 2003. I would like my maternity clothes back.
But, Your Honor, I did tell her this was a loan.
No, listen to me. You're not following what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is if you wanted your maternity clothes back, When was your baby born?
He was 3 months premature. He was born in March of 2001.
Okay. So you had 2 years. Pick up the phone. Baby's born in March 2001.
I never even
say,
used
hi,
them.
don't need the maternity things anymore. Congratulations. I'm really glad that you had baby. Baby is nice and healthy. I'm going to come over and pick up my maternity clothes. You chose not to do that. Let them sit in her closet or wherever they were. Maybe she gave them to somebody else to use. Who knows? But you certainly weren't vigilant with the maternity clothes. The other things she used afterwards. So I'm having her return those things to you, but don't push it with regard to the maternity clothes. You were not vigilant in taking them back. Perhaps you didn't expect to use them again. In any event, that's my decision. Those things go back to you.
Parties are excused.
Thank you,
You
Anna.
can step out.
I was very disappointed.
I think it was very fair and just.
Rebecca is entitled to her belongings back.
She made some good points about the situation with her witness, my soon-to-be ex-husband.
I made the mistake of trusting someone.
She was right on target.
It was clearly a loan when Rebecca gave them to us. She was very nice to give them to us, and now because Shannon doesn't want to return them and return her calls, Rebecca has to suffer for her generosity.
I'm a pretty reasonable person.
What the defendant said as far as the church just is not true.
I filed for divorce in a Baptist church that they belong to that thinks that I'm the devil's spawn because they don't believe in divorce.
That had nothing to do with my decision.
I think it worked out perfect and very happy.
Well, I think you need to be careful who you trust.
House designer Charles Scott Wells is suing his ex-fiancée, retired banker Linda Howells, for the return of property and an engagement ring. Linda is countersuing for medical bills, plus pain and suffering due to an assault.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. The Honor, this is case number 456 on the calendar in the matter of Wells versus Howells. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Wells, according to what I've read, sir, you and the defendant had a glorious 11-year relationship. Sometimes on, sometimes off. Now it's off. It's over. But about 2 years ago, when it was over, it is your claim that Miss Howells, while you were incarcerated on some kind of domestic dispute, she stole all of your personal property. So that's the first part of your lawsuit, that you want your personal property from 2 years ago.
Yes.
Then, more recently, in 2002, you got back together again. And you claim that you proposed marriage, and you gave her a ring. And then a month or so later, the relationship ended for good, so you want the ring back.
Yes.
Miss Howells says that she deserves the ring. She doesn't even address the stuff, but she says she deserves the ring after 11 years of being with you. And she's counterclaiming because she says in November, which is the date of the final breakup, that you assaulted her, and she wants to be compensated for her pain and suffering, whatever medical bill she has. So I'm not going to get into what you say Miss Howells took 2 years ago, and I'm going to tell you why, sir. Have you been incarcerated for the last 2 years?
No.
Then would you like to tell me why you did not pursue this matter for 2 years?
Well, Your Honor,
I know who I am, so just tell me why.
the reason why is because we have been together and on and off so many times that I've lost count, and these things that I want are things that I bought with my own money. I've paid Ms. Howells numerous amounts of cash and dining and trips to Mexico, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and I've been slapped in the face, and I'd like to have my things back.
Well, you should have been more vigilant, Mr. Wells. Courts are set up to deal with divorces. They're not set up to deal with almost marrieds, almost togethers, 11-year relationships that don't pan out. You had 2 years in which to act, you didn't. But I'm going to get to the ring for a second. Where's the ring, Miss Howells?
The ring, I returned to Costco in Medford, Oregon, and gave them a picture of the attack of my right arm, and they returned the money to me.
How much money did they return?
$1,099.
That's what you owe him. $1,099. Is that what you paid for the ring, Mr. Wells?
Yes.
An engagement ring is given in anticipation of getting married. You didn't get married, you don't keep the ring or the value thereof because you returned the ring. You don't keep the cash because you feel as if you deserve it. You don't. If you're foolish enough to live with somebody who abuses you and who makes your life miserable, that's your problem. You don't get to keep the ring. So you get $1,099, sir, on your complaint.
Okay.
Now we're going to get to your counterclaim. I want you to tell me what happened in November when you claimed that Mr. Wells assaulted you.
Okay, Mr. Wells and I, being he was having some behavior problems, I was going to drive us to a Christian marriage counseling. It was a 2-day seminar. We tried to find the place where it was going to take place and could not find it. So we decided to just go to dinner and, and forget about it. So we went to dinner, had a couple drinks, and then on the way home, we stopped at this nightclub. It's a steakhouse nightclub. He started verbally accusing me things of looking at some guy in the bar and things like that, starting a fight. And I was having a good time. And anyway, so we get to my home, and it escalated. So we get out of the car, go in the house, and he all of a sudden just turned into a totally different person and told me that, called me some names, and then he told me he was going to kick that TV in, the big screen TV, and he was going to slap me in my face, and he was going to walk out the door and get a taxi and go home. Well, he didn't have any money. So he grabbed my phone and proceeded out the door with it. I said, "Give me my phone back." Anyway, he slammed it down on the cement. I said, "Scott, calm down." He came back inside my home, and he just was out of control. I said, "I will give you the money to take a taxi, if that's your big, thing." I go, "Why can't you just get along with me and we can just, work this out? Why do you have to be like this?" And anyway, he grabbed my purse at one time, ran to the door, and then I ran after him and got my purse away because I had some money in it. We kind of backed up. I kind of backed to my kitchen counter, and something in my heart told me I just better make it to the door and scream because of the way he was carrying on and going out of his mind. And anyway, so I ran to the door, got the door open. I opened the door with my right hand, and and I got to scream out for help, and he immediately grabbed my right arm. It's really hard, and he covered up my mouth, dragged me to my office. It's a second bedroom I use for my office. He dragged me in there and told me the police are going to come, and how much he loved me, and he just carried on, please, tell him I left, because actually when he grabbed me on my arm and grabbed me around my face, I thought he was going to kill me.
Okay, so he grabbed you by the arm, put his hand across your mouth and said, "Please don't scream because the police are going to come. Tell them I'm not here."
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so then the police came, and anyway, he hid in my closet, and they pulled him out of the closet, but he had put something in one of my shoes.
What did he put in one of your shoes?
I have the police report, Your Honor.
What did he put in your shoe?
Meth, drugs.
Drugs. So who was arrested?
He was arrested.
What about
I didn't press charges.
What about you?
No, I went in and did a urinalysis in my bathroom. They gave me the cup, and I'm clean. What
about him?
No, they took him to jail.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm not a drug user.
So this was an isolated instance?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, right.
And later today,
Your Honor, she knew I was going in the hallway.
That doesn't mean anything if she knew you were going in the hallway, Miss Davis.
Yes, Your Honor. This is how it was.
No, it wasn't. Stop making it up as you're going along.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Charles Scott Wells says ex-fiancée Linda Howells owes for the return of property and an engagement ring. Linda says he bought the ring at Costco and she returned it.
All right, Mr. Wells, let's hear your version of the events of the 3rd of November, 2002.
Well, I call this the abuse of the legal system, and here's why. Ms. Howells had made a statement to her neighbor, if I'm murdered, then it's my boyfriend who did it. Well, that was early in the afternoon. Ms. Howells picks me up that evening, takes me out to dinner, takes me back to her house, goes outside, screams help, I get arrested. That's the short version of it. I mean, that's just one incident. And I've got proof right here.
I'd like to see it.
Also, Ms. Howells is sue crazy. She's got 7 lawsuits going. Here's one that's just recent, a whiplash case. That,
Shh, I'm not interested in a whiplash case. Let me see proof, sir.
This, from here on the second page, kind of states what happened.
Why were you hiding in the closet?
The reason I was hiding in the closet is because of an incident that happened 2 years ago that was similar to this, where she had called the police, had me arrested, said that I had threatened her. I went to jail, and that's when I lost my belongings out of my house. The The
So is
reason
that
I
why
was
you
in
were
the
hiding?
closet is
What about the drugs?
The drugs, I don't do drugs now as isolated incidents.
Just a second. What were the drugs doing in her shoe?
I had put them there.
Why?
Because when Miss Howells opened the door for the police, she said, he's hiding in the closet.
Well, what were you doing walking around with the drugs?
I was on my way.
Methamphetamine. What were you doing walking around with?
It was a foolish mistake, Your Honor. I mean, it was something I am very embarrassed about.
What did you plan to do with it, sir?
Pardon?
I mean, were you going to frame it?
I was going to snort it.
Had you snorted any of it before?
In the past?
Yes.
No, I'm not a drug user. It's
So this was an
isolated-
isolated instance?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, right. Were you given a urine test when you got to the precinct?
Yes.
Is it negative or positive?
I'm not sure what the results were.
Really? All right. Let me see your injuries, please.
Okay. And here's a copy of the police report, what happened. And then there's that on my arm. And then the incident of it was actually a year prior, November 23rd, 2001.
I'm not interested in what happened the year before. I'm not interested in his property that happened the year before. I'm not interested.
Okay.
Oh, this is a bad bruise.
Very bad. And I had a 5-hour shoulder surgery in 1997 on my shoulder.
Oh, please. I'm not interested in the year of the flood, madam.
And, Your Honor,
Well,
there was no...
No, Your Honor, it caused me paralysis, his grabbing me. I
Okay.
have no
Right
damage.
now you look just fine, but he gave you a nasty bruise.
There was no report of that when the incident happened with the police. This is all
Because I didn't
fabricated.
press charges. I tried to protect you.
You admitted to the police, sir, that you last snorted the meth earlier that evening.
Yes, I did. Your Honor, I went down the wrong path there. And
Fine. Well, then what you did,
know.
sir, you went down the wrong path, and what happened is...
But the drugs have not...
No, listen to me. You went down the wrong path, sir, and what happened when you go down the wrong path and you snort drugs earlier in the evening, your behavior changes.
Mm-hmm.
Even your memory of events change. Because what you told me happened was that she set you up that night.
She did.
That she came to take you to dinner, and she drove you home to her house, and then she ran outside and screamed for the police so that she could have you arrested. If that's really what you think, I feel sorry for you. If that's what you want me to believe, I feel sorry for me. Because it's not what happened, sir.
Well, Your Honor,
What happened is you got into an argument with her. You were behaving irrationally. You were a little bit sweaty. I don't know what your circumstance is as we stand here today, and I'm certainly not going to ask you, but I will tell you that night you were acting a little bit irrationally. She went outside and screamed for somebody to call the police, and you got busted, and you got busted for either a disturbance at her home and or the drug possession. You probably pled guilty to the drug possession. Is that a fair statement?
Well, Miss Howells was arrested for marijuana that evening.
Did you?
And she was partying with me.
Did you plead guilty to the drug possession?
Yes, I did.
So that's over.
Yeah.
So that part is.
I haven't tried
that part is over with. As part of what happened in the course of that evening, sir, you bruised her very badly because you didn't want to get. Oh yeah, you did.
That picture could be from anything. If she was injured, wouldn't she have told the police that night when I was arrested?
A black and blue mark like that doesn't come out 2 seconds later. It comes out. That's what happened. You grabbed her inside. You mean you didn't punch her? She didn't say he punched me. He kicked me in the back. He threatened to stab me. He said you grabbed her by the arm, which you did, in order to take her inside to shut her up. You were acting irrationally. I don't think that she was seriously injured that night. I don't believe that. But I believe she was injured sufficiently enough to cost you $1,099, which is the cost of the engagement ring. So your claim is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Michael versus White. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student Anna Michael is suing her former roommate, 20-year-old receptionist Bridget White, for the return of a computer. Bridget is countersuing, claiming Anna broke their apartment lease.
Miss Michael, you and the defendant were best friends, roommates, and it is your claim that the defendant took from you a computer that you had paid for, or mostly paid for, and you want $1,000 that you had put into the computer that she took.
Correct.
That's your claim. Miss White says that, yes, she took the computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the arrangement was it was going to be yours when you fully paid for it, and you still owed some $300 on the computer. When you paid the $300, the computer would be yours. Is that right?
Yes.
till she gets her money. She's got the computer, which I assume is in good condition.
Yes.
Good. Now, Ms. White has a counterclaim. She says you stuck her with 11 months on a 12-month lease. She was able to negotiate herself out of the lease, but as a result of that, she lost her security deposit because you left.
Correct.
So she wants that money back from you since you left the apartment. And she also says that you took with you a camera that was half hers. She will explain to me. So let's take care of the computer first. Can I see the receipt for the computer? How much it cost? Total purchase, $1,314. You paid $1,000.
Correct.
So you owe her $314.38.
Correct.
Correct? So you're going to give her that and she's going to give you back the computer.
I've tried.
Do you understand?
Yes.
5 days from today's date, we will make a transfer. You will get your $314.38. She will get her computer. Is that clear?
Yes.
Oh,
Correct.
you're not going to get much more out of her. Correct. Correct. Good.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Michael says former roommate Bridget White owes for the return of her computer.
Now, let's talk about this lease. How much was your security deposit?
The total security deposit was $400. I paid $266.66, and she paid $133.37.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Now, tell me why you left.
I left because it was an unsafe environment for me.
Explain it.
Her boyfriend was living with us. He occupied the second room. He was involved with illegal activity. I did not want to live that kind of lifestyle anymore. I didn't want to put myself in that position or environment, so I left.
Well, you mean he was selling drugs or using them?
Selling them, yes. I could smell the marijuana in the room. Using them, I have no proof.
Yes, you could smell the
Niggas the other way around.
I think you meant to switch that around.
Oh.
That
Well,
he-
like, there was...
that you could smell it, so yes, he was using it, but you don't know if he was selling it because you don't have any information about that.
Well, I saw there was money on her bed at multiple times. And it was a large sum of money, so I knew he was dealing with it.
So then both you smelled it and he was selling it, right? Smell and sell.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Michael, you said you didn't want to be involved in that lifestyle anymore. Had you been involved in that lifestyle previously?
No, ma'am.
So you misspoke when you said you didn't
Yes,
want to
I
be
did
involved. Misspeak.
Misspeak.
I say you misspoke. You say yes. Did misspeak.
Correct.
Correct. Love this case. So did you have an argument? She told you she moved out?
She never gave me a reason. I came home at lunch and she was gone.
Really?
Mm-hmm. She called me that Friday morning at work and said, "I'm leaving."
Okay. Now, the lease was in whose name?
Hers, mine, and 2 other girls.
What about your boyfriend?
He wasn't living there.
Was he staying over?
He actually stayed for 3 days. That was a couple weeks before that.
Why
3
did you
days.
leave?
I left because of her boyfriend.
Then why didn't you say to her, if your boyfriend comes to stay here and is going to be involved in drugs, I'm going to have to leave? Instead of just saying, I'm leaving, I'm out of here.
Well, it wasn't that easy.
Well, explain it to me.
We had a roommate, and she left on the 11th of July. And so in order to compensate for that month's rent, Bridget brought in her boyfriend, which I interpreted and was led to believe that he would pay for the rest of the money of that month. So he was living there. I did not know that he was going to be involved with legal behavior inside our room. I did not know that. So I told her I would no longer live with him, and I would not live with him through her. And because of that, I left.
All right, now talk to me about the camera.
For our birthdays, which are a week apart, her sister, who is a good friend of mine, bought us both a camera. And it was to both of us, and when she left, she took it with her.
So you think her sister bought you a present?
No, it was for both of us. She bought us more than just the camera for our birthdays. Her sister
Well,
was a
somebody
good
had
friend
to
of
take
mine.
the camera.
Huh?
What's huh? Somebody had to take the camera.
Yes. She actually took it. She didn't discuss anything with me, so I just said, that's fine. If you'd like it, you can pay me for half the value.
She's not going to pay you anything for the camera that her sister bought for her birthday. This is the way we're going to resolve this, ladies. And listen very carefully. You would ordinarily have to pay her, in order to get your computer back, $314. Do you understand?
Correct.
That means you pay her $314. You also owe her $266. Do you understand? She shouldn't be responsible for your skipping out. You should have made proper arrangements. When you move in to a place, you're supposed to make arrangements if you want to move out, not just to say, toodaloo, and the people who were there are stuck. She lost her security deposit.
So did I.
So?
What does that make? I don't.
So, you lost your security deposit, but you caused her to lose hers also.
But she signed off on a transfer lease.
So?
I couldn't live there anymore.
I don't know where you went. Where did you go?
I was homeless for a week.
Where did you sleep?
On the floor in my friend's room.
That's not being homeless. That's being young. Listen to me. On your counterclaim, I'm awarding you $588. That is $314 for the computer and $266 for the money that you were out as a result of this aborted lease. You will get your computer back. Clear?
Clear.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm happy with the outcome. I just think it's unfortunate that people can get away with what they do.
People change. I mean, that's time.
No more roommates.
Choose your friends wisely.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Block versus Ulrich. Step forward, please.
Loan officer Chris Block and his wife Deanna are suing their neighbor, cleaning company vice president Steve Ulrich, for vet bills. The Blocks claim the son of Steve's girlfriend, 12-year-old Dustin Miller, threw their kitten down a flight of stairs.
Mr. and Mrs. Block, who's going to speak for you?
Oh, well.
Okay. Neither one of you were home at the time of this incident with the kitten?
No.
Okay. Who was home?
Both kids, I believe, right? No, my son.
Very good. So why don't you have a seat, the two of you? Step up. Mr. Ulrich, this is not your son. You are his guardian, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You weren't there on the 3rd of October, is that right?
Yes.
You were not there?
I was not there.
Why don't you have a seat? Step up here, young man. What's your first name?
Devin.
Devin?
Yeah.
And yours?
Dustin.
All right, this is the complaint. On behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Block, they had a kitten, and they claim that Dustin purposely injured their kitten, causing the kitten's leg to break, and the kitten had to have leg reset. There were substantial medical bills, and they want the defendant to be responsible for those medical bills, you or his mother. The defendant says that Dustin was merely defending himself from this kitten. So let's see what happened. Devin?
Yes.
I want you to tell me what happened on October 3rd with your kitten. How old, first of all, tell me how old the kitten is.
When it happened?
Yes.
About 4 months.
And Dustin was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Did he play over at your house often?
Yes.
Okay. Did Dustin like the kitten?
Yeah.
So tell me what happened that day.
Well, we were playing video games, and he said he's going to go to the bathroom. And then he comes back, and he says that I didn't really go to the bathroom. I went to go pet the kitten. Well, later that night, she was limping and crying, and you'd touch her leg, she would cry. And we asked him when he went to go play with the cat if he did something, but he said that she was biting him and that he just got angry and annoyed and he tossed her off the stairs.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Tell me what happened, Dustin.
I was playing with the kitten when it bit me, and then
Well, tell me exactly where you were when you were playing with the kitten and it bit you.
I was on the stairs.
What do you mean on the stairs?
Like, the kitten was on the stairs, so I was, like, sitting and petting it.
And the kitten bit you?
Yes.
So what happened after the kitten bit you?
Like, I pulled my hand back to get it off, and it fell off the stairs.
How did it fall off the stairs?
The stairs is not that wide, so when I was sitting down, I was kind of near the edge of this, where the stairwell would be.
Isn't there a railing?
No.
Is there a railing?
No, Your Honor. We removed it after we moved in. I have some pictures.
I'd like to see it.
And there's some pictures of after Penrose removed.
Oh, I see. So there is no railing. Who else was there when he confessed?
My mom and my sister.
Well, I'd like to hear from you. Yes. Tell me about the discussion that you had with Dustin that evening.
Well, at first when we'd asked, because I saw the cat was limping and nobody would say anything, so I kept asking the kids over and over again what had happened. Dustin was kind of nervous, and Devin told me that he had left the room, and then it told me about him playing with the cat. So I said, Dustin, what happened? Just tell us what happened. And then he said that when he was playing with her, that she started to bite him. So at first he said he went like this and just threw her down the stairs. Then I said, well, there had to have been more than that. So I kept asking him, and then he said, well, he went like this over the edge. And he said, so then he threw her that way.
So he didn't say he picked her up and threw her over the side.
No, but...
Okay. I just want to know what he said.
Okay.
You're 12?
Yeah.
And you're 12?
Yeah.
Well, they're certainly old enough to be home alone by themselves. So I can't fault you for not being there to supervise, but I also am not going to make an order that his parents be responsible for the medical bills for your cat. I mean, I don't think that he purposely did anything to hurt your cat. The cat nips because it's a kitten. But again, he's 12 years old. He doesn't have the intellect, you know, of somebody who's an adult. And he wanted to get the cat off. So let's say he took his hand and went like that, and the cat went over on the side as a reflex. There's nothing more than a reflex to get the cat off. You still think that he's responsible to pay for the vet bills for the cat?
Only because the vet told us there was no way the cat could have broken its leg in 5 places just from tossing off the side. She had to have been pretty much slammed to the ground to have broken it the way it did.
Did you ever have any indication that this young man would do anything to hurt an animal?
Well, the fact that he knew she was hurt and went back to play video games like nothing had happened.
Well, that's not a good thing, right? Tell me why you did that.
Well, first of all, I didn't know the cat was hurt.
Just a second. After the cat goes over, whether you went like this to get the cat off you because the cat was biting you, or whether you pushed the cat down the stairs to get the cat off of you, you had to have sat there for a second and watched what happened when the cat got up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you see the cat limping?
No.
Well, I don't necessarily believe that, Dustin. When you came back inside, did you tell Devin what had happened with the cat?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't really know. I didn't really think it was like a huge deal because when the cat fell, it wasn't moving afterwards when I went up, back upstairs.
It wasn't moving?
No, but...
Well, weren't you worried if it wasn't moving? Dustin?
It was standing.
You have an animal at home? You have a dog or a cat?
Bird.
What if your bird was bothering somebody by chirping and the person had a headache and it went over and it rattled the cage really hard and the bird fell to the ground and broke a leg? Would you be angry?
Yes.
Would you think that the person ought to tell you that that's what happened?
Yes.
Do you think that you would have any responsibility? Or that they would have any responsibility?
Like, they would have some responsibility, but we would also have some because it was our bird that would got on the person's nerves.
The birds do what birds do. Yes. Birds sing. Kittens nip. And if you don't like it when the kitten is nipping, then you don't play with the kitten. But Mrs. Block, I don't think that he did this on purpose. And I don't think that his parents had any indication that he had a predisposition to cruelty to animals, which in my judgment would make them responsible. If you have children in your house and you choose to leave 12-year-olds in your house unsupervised, you're pretty much responsible for what goes on there. So I'm sorry, but your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was a fair decision. I think it was unfortunate what happened to the kitten. I honestly do. I don't want anybody to be hurt.
I know that when the vet said that there's no way she could have broken her leg the way she did just by tossing her off the sides.
Dustin's not that kind of boy. He's not going to hurt anything maliciously.
I know there was more involved that day than we could say.
I want to be friends with him, but his parents don't let him play with me anymore.
Deli worker Glenette Kitt is suing her neighbor, Auditor Tanya Gatson, for having her falsely arrested 4 times. Tanya is countersuing, claiming Glenette vandalized her car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Shh. Your Honor, this is case number 328 on the calendar in the matter of Kitt versus Gatson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Kitt, do you have family?
Yes.
Tell me about your family. How many are in your family?
I have 6 and custody of 1 other, so that makes 7.
Is there a Mr. Kitt?
My son and my nephew.
Other than that?
No.
So you have no husband?
Right.
Ms. Gadsden, you want to tell me how many people are in your family?
I live alone right now. I have 3 children. My oldest is living in Atlanta with her father. My young 2 smaller children are with their grandmother. I'm in the midst of a custody hearing. Actually, I have a court date on November 22nd.
Have those children ever lived with you in the past year?
They left about exactly a year ago.
You 2 ladies are neighbors. Each of you has a complaint against the other, suing the other for $5,000. The complaint is really grounded in various forms of harassment. You claim, Ms. Kitt, that the defendant had you falsely arrested on 4 separate occasions, and that she has made numerous phone calls about you to Child Protective Services, alleging that the children who are in your care are out unsupervised. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gadsden says that you're making her life a holy hell, and she is counterclaiming. So why don't you, Ms. Kitt, first tell me how long you've been living in the house that you currently occupy?
I moved there exactly January 1st of year 2000.
And how long, Ms. Gadsden, have you been living there?
I moved there 94. I've been there 5 years.
So you've been there a long time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you, in a couple of minutes, Ms. Kitt, tell me all about your case against Ms. Gadsden?
Well, about a week after moving there, my children were outside playing. It was right after Christmas. We had just moved there. I walked to the door, and Ms. Gadsden had a limousine come and pick her friend up. My kids, they admired it. They went outside to see, you know, run and play and look at it. When I seen them approach Ms. Gadsden's side of the street, they was like, wow. So Ms. Gadsden came out and said, y'all, MF's children are not used to seeing things like this. Get the hell away from my yard. So I walked over to her side of the street. I said, ma'am, I don't know you, but these are my children. Don't speak to them in that tone of manner. So I went on in the house, went to work maybe 2 days later. My kid's babysitter lives directly next door to Miss Gadsden. I brought you a picture.
She lives next door.
And I went to open the door to get my kids. Miss Gadsden opened her door and said, B.I., hopped and spit in my face. And it was, I just can't explain, but I knew I was going to get her. And I did. The same day, I hit her. I popped her in her mouth. Not even a year later, maybe about in April, I kept getting police calls and at my house at work. I come home one day, the social services was there. She told me that she had had complaints 1 week after another concerning my kids being unsupervised. So I took her to where my kids were at a babysitter, which was next door to Miss Gadsden. And they found no foundings. After they did all this, and I guess she couldn't have me locked up anymore, she started with having me arrested on false charges. I had to be bailed out of jail over and over and over again. Up until this day, I'm still being arrested.
Arrested?
Yes, arrested.
You have the police reports?
Yes, I do.
Can I see them, please?
I have some copies of those and the charges that were all dismissed.
How many times did you have her arrested for damaging your car?
2 times, ma'am.
Did you see her damage your car?
Yes, ma'am.
How come the charges were dismissed?
The photos that I'd asked a friend to drop off for me at Walmart, they did not get same day, development. They had 4 days. And when I went to court the next day, I had to wait until the day after court to get the photos. So the judge dismissed it because I didn't have proof, which made me very upset with my friend, of
Your
course.
Honor. You think I believe that story? I don't believe that story for a minute. Let's go back a minute, Miss Gadsden. You have 2 young children. How old are your children?
6 and 8 years old.
The children were removed by social services? Yes.
They were not removed from me. They were placed with their father temporarily.
They were placed with their father by social services.
Okay. They were actually picked up. My oldest daughter was home with the children, and she walked out. She was, in a sense, envious of her 2 younger sisters. She thought that we had a closer relationship than she did. She'd come here from Georgia with her father, and she walked out and called the police and left the 2 children there. The police then took the children to to my licensed daycare provider.
Ms. Gadsden.
And then from there.
Is what you're telling me that you had a misunderstanding with your older daughter, and because there was a misunderstanding with her, she was jealous of the two younger children. She left them alone, and because of that, social services placed your two children with their father.
Right.
And they've been with their father for over a year because of that?
No, ma'am. After placing them with him, well, they went immediately from my house to the licensed daycare provider that I had. From there, the father picked them up, and they allowed him to have temporary custody until I completed whatever needed to be done through the Division of Social Services.
But Ms. Gadsden, there's a major piece there that you're not telling me, and
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
you to face. I was in family court for 25 years. I don't know if it's substance abuse involved.
No, none.
I don't know if there were prior incidents of leaving the children alone.
No,
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I know that if what the original story that you told me was that this was a misunderstanding with your older daughter, that your two younger children would have been back in a blink. It was not that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you ever been arrested for anything?
Yes, assault and battery.
What else?
Forgery.
After 92.
Petty larceny. I don't remember the years, but I know charges.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lynette Kitt says neighbor Tanya Gadsden has had her falsely arrested on 4 separate occasions. Tanya says Lynette hangs out with drug dealers.
Yeah. So now I hear a whole bunch of false arrests and a whole bunch of stuff that you've been aggravating her. Now let me hear how she's aggravated you.
If I may begin with, there are other people living in her house, and they are individuals that aren't on leases there. They reach in their socks and they give her things that she pays for at the door, and I have witnesses that have written statements, and I've kind of highlighted where the drugs are in our neighborhood, and there's definitely drug trafficking going on in that vicinity. My last day coming home to my home,
Put that down.
I watched an individual walk up to Mrs. Kitt's window. There is an individual, I would not like to call his name, that is banned from our neighborhood, that was known to be shooting in our neighborhood. I've made several police calls about, that is in Mrs. Kitt's home now. Mrs. Kitt, from 7 in the morning to about 2, 3 in the morning, it's like a blowhorn from across the street to the street behind my street to a lady by the name of Renee that she's now pulled a knife on and had Renee removed from the neighborhood. Renee pulled a baseball bat in return. On July, the 12th day, I rented that limousine for my friend, not in September. There were children from the neighborhood, yes, but they weren't Miss Kitt's children. It was Mrs. Kitt that, as I said, excuse me, coming down from my front grass, the kids were all looking, and yes, and I brought my friend outside as a surprise because he'd done a very kind thing for me. And I said, excuse me, please. And she replied with vulgar language, and I was really torn up that I had to be assaulted to do something nice for a friend by this lady across the street. I have, Your Honor, I don't know how else to say, just had about 7 court dates with Miss Kitt.
Just a second. Miss Kitt, would you tell me how many children who live in your home are your biological children?
4 of them are, Your Honor.
I'm confused. 5 or 4?
Well, I count my nephew. I have custody of him. But biologically, 4 of mine live there.
Okay. What other children live in your house?
None other, and no one else, Your Honor.
Have you ever been arrested for drug sales?
No, ma'am.
Other than the arrests that were caused by complaints by Miss Gadsden, have you ever been arrested for anything?
Yes, assault and battery.
When?
2 years this year.
Who was the complainant in that case?
Another young lady.
From the neighborhood?
Yes.
And what was the result of that case?
Dismissed.
Did she allege that you assaulted her?
Yes. Yes,
and
she did.
Did you allege that you were the victim and that she assaulted you?
I said I didn't do it.
You said you just didn't do it?
I didn't do it.
Did you go to trial?
Yes, I did.
And you were acquitted after trial?
Yes.
And that's the only arrest you had anywhere?
Oh, no, ma'am. I have some, like 10 years ago.
For
12
what?
years ago.
What else?
Driving.
Other than driving?
Forgery.
What year?
92.
After 92?
94.
For what?
No, 96 was driving.
Between 92 and 96?
Petty larceny. I don't remember the years, but I know charges.
When was the last time you were incarcerated? Think carefully.
96.
How long?
45 days.
Is that on a plea or a conviction?
Conviction.
Who watched your children?
The fathers, two of them were in DCS because the fathers were Navy.
Now, Ms. Gatson, I'm going to ask you the same question. Other than instances involving Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time you were arrested?
This was dated on, if maybe the deputy could help me.
No, just tell me. It had nothing to do with Miss Kitt.
Indirectly, yes, ma'am. This was a summons that was for my children's father and I for court, and Miss Kitt thought this was a summons for her and I in court, and I have a witness here that watched her take the summons off my door.
Other than anything having to do with Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
This is a failure to appear.
Listen to me very carefully, Ms. Gatson. Other than any instance that even tangentially involves Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
I don't think so.
Don't give me I don't think so.
In my home, prior to 2000.
In your home, out of your home, in the theater, in a restaurant, in the street. Have you ever been arrested?
When this
car?
individual came to my door,
just answer yes or no.
Yes.
You have been arrested.
The officer accidentally arrested me, and he was the one that had assaulted me.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Other than that instance, madam,
yes,
other than that instance, prior to 2000, have you ever been arrested?
Prior to 2000?
Yeah.
I was not arrested. I turned myself in after I found that the children's father's girlfriend filed a warrant against me in the city of Chesapeake, a counter warrant, and actually the incident occurred in the city of Norfolk.
I want you ladies to listen to me very, very carefully. Are you involved in a custody dispute now with the father of your children?
No, ma'am. He is not participating in any with what social services has required. I've completed all of those things.
Oh, he's not giving you back the kids so fast.
He doesn't have the children, ma'am.
Where are they?
His mother and sister have the children around the corner from my house. I asked them to get them out of foster care because they were taken from him because he had no place to stay.
Okay, you have an older daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And two younger ones. You just told me 2 minutes ago that the two younger children were with their father. Did I hear that right? Did you hear that?
Let her explain.
Okay.
You just told me that they weren't removed, that they weren't in foster care, that they were with their father. I said that the state take your children. You told me no.
No, I apologize.
Please, give me a break. Listen, you two ladies deserve each other. I would suggest the following to you. Listen to me very carefully. If you're going to live next door to each other, I suggest you have nothing to do with each other. Other than that, I don't want to be bothered with you. Goodbye.
These are excused. You may step out.
Envy. There's a lady that's on the porch on a chair all night long.
She never lets up. She let the judicial system keep me down, but it's not going to keep me down.
The young lady wanted a lot of attention.
I just know it'll never be over.
I think I've been getting all the attention in the neighborhood.
I'm a good friend. I would give her a glass of water. She needed it off the street.
I've got limousines, Lexuses, SC Lexuses, all sorts of nice things coming through, and nice people coming to visit.
She's a serial neighbor.
Evening gown, dates, tuxedos, and she has nothing.
She spit in my face.
I opened my door, heard her on the porch at the neighbor's house, reached over to check my mail, and someone stepped up and did that.
Something is wrong. Definitely wrong.
I'm moving. You'll never see me again.
She needs a straight jacket.
I'm gone, Miss Kitt.
I'm gonna keep praying.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cox versus Davis. Step forward, please.
21-year-old software tester Cameron Cox is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old bartender Jeremy Davis, for the balance on a car. Jeremy is countersuing, accusing Cameron of cashing 2 of his paychecks.
Miss Cox, how long did you date Mr. Davis?
We met in November, we started dating in December, and we broke up in May.
And when did you decide to put a car that he wanted in your name and put down the deposit?
In February.
So you knew him less than 2 months?
Well, we had been friends since November.
You dated him for less than 2 months. You had a relationship with him for less than 2 months when you decided to do that. What do you do for a living?
I'm a software tester.
So you're an intelligent gal. You have skills and all that stuff? Ever watch this court before on television? Are you paying attention when you watch? Huh?
Yes.
Well, I'm paying good attention. Because according to what I read here, what you did was, he wanted to buy a car, he had lousy credit. You said, okay, put the car in my name, which means the loan will be in your name. I'll put down half the down payment, $3,000. You pay for the car, you pay for the insurance. And that was the deal that you say you had with him, right?
Yes.
And then a few months later, the romance is over. He takes off, leaving you with the car, which was repossessed. You say it's not your car. You had nothing to do with it. The car was repossessed. It's her problem because the car wasn't in your name, the loan isn't in your name. You don't know why you're here. Is that right?
Right.
See what I mean? And you say, Mr. Davis, not only that, but she took 2 of your commission checks.
Correct.
And forged your name to 2 commission checks and cashed them, and you are counterclaiming. How much were the commission checks?
It was $580.
Can I see that, please?
Yeah.
Sure. Did you forge his name to these checks and cash them?
Only one of them, with his permission.
Okay, which one?
I don't know.
One is dated 4/11, one is dated 4/18.
It was the last one.
Okay, and what did you use the money for?
For what he owes me.
You mean on the cars?
No, to go for what he owes me when we broke up. I made a contract.
Can I see it? Did you sign a note that you promised to pay her all this money?
I remember signing to him.
Well, show it to him. See? There you go. Now, did you sign that?
And Ron was a witness to it.
Oh, that's not my signature, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. It's not his signature. So let's go further, Ms. Cox. This says that he owes you half the down payment for the Explorer, which is $1,500.
Correct.
Okay? I'm not even playing around with the rent or half the bills or anything else. Sticking to the car.
Could I say something, Your Honor?
Now, I'll get to you in a second. The time in February when you got this Explorer for him, did you have a car?
Yes, I have a car fully paid for.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Toyota Celica.
Is that what you have now?
Yes.
What year car is that?
2000.
Is it correct, Mr. Davis, that at the time that you and Miss Cox were dating, she had a Toyota Celica, 2000? What word didn't you understand, sir? At the time you were dating, did she have a 2000 Toyota Celica?
Yeah, she did.
And in January of 2002, what kind of car did you have?
I have no car.
Ah, perfect. Now, so you had no car in January. Now, I want you to think very carefully, Mr. Davis. Shh. In March, on March 7th, 2002, at 6 o'clock in the evening, think about what I'm saying to you. What kind of car were you driving?
2001 Ford Explorer Sport.
Yes, sir.
But
And what kind of car was she driving?
She was driving a Toyota.
Now, in June of 2002, you were no longer together with the plaintiff. Is that right?
Correct.
What kind of car were you driving?
I was driving no car.
Right. What did you do with the Explorer?
I didn't do anything with the Explorer. I
You
didn't
just
purchase
left it there.
Yeah, because it was in her name. She purchased, she financed it. Nothing on contract at the dealership was my name on it.
So, now, Bert, first I want to deal, Mr. Davis, with your counterclaim, okay?
Correct.
You claim that the plaintiff forged your name to 2 commission checks totaling almost $600.
Correct.
And she kept that money. Is that right?
Correct.
She kept that money?
She kept that money.
Right. Return this to him. I can't tell whether she forged your name. So your counterclaim's dismissed. You got that so far? Tell me about this car being repossessed. When was it repossessed?
I did a voluntary repo in the middle of June. Once we broke up, he was supposed to go get anger management classes because he was abusive during the relationship.
Oh, so in the short time you were together, he was also abusive?
The last month, he became abusive.
Ms. Cox, so listen to me. In the few short months you were together, he was also abusive.
Only in May. He became abusive towards the end of the relationship.
Relationship wasn't that long. Now, keep your money in your bank. Your head on your shoulders and your money in the bank. 2 good things. If you think of nothing else when you leave here today, keep your head on your shoulders and your money in the bank. So you did a voluntary repo of the car and you sent it back to the credit company, and how much did they sell it for?
And they sold it for $11,000, and this is the remaining of what I owe.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Davis?
Bartender.
How long have you been a bartender, sir?
For about a month. Before I was doing that, I was a fork truck driver.
A what?
Fork truck driver.
Well, what happened to that job?
Well, but I just wanted to bartend.
Don't you make more money driving those heavy machines?
Yeah, you do. But I like the bartending scene, so chose that.
You like the bartending scene?
Yeah, meeting new people.
You still owe $8,000 on this car, $8,800 on this car?
Can I say something, Your Honor?
What?
I had received a call from Cameron that she had called me and said I messed up, and I was, well, what are you talking about? She had spent a lot of money, an 8-ball of coke, used it all. She called me crying on the phone.
God. What does that have to do with the Explorer? What does that have to do with your Explorer? Would you answer my question?
Do what now?
Mr. Davis, I'll have a vodka martini straight up. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? What does one thing have to do with another? Just wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing anything wrong, you know. Perhaps mocking Mr. Davis because he suffered from a hearing impediment. He doesn't suffer from a hearing impediment. He suffers from selective hearing, which is very much in tune with his gender. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of her request, $3,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Goodbye, Mr. Davis.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I mean, he knows he owes me the money.
I feel like I owe her money because my name wasn't on the contract.
I don't understand why he even bothered coming, you know. He might as well have just given me the case. I have the contract.
My name's not on the lease, so why should I pay the vehicle?
All he has to do is compare the signatures. They would have been the exact same from the contract and the check.
Why should I give her money for a vehicle that's not in my name?
I had a full-time job. I wanted him to be able to access a job so that he could pay me back the money for rent and everything, so that's why I did it.
She signed my payroll check.
Nothing was forged, and he did sign that contract.
And she forged and cashed.
There was really no need to even come into court. I mean, he could have just started sending me the money like he had promised.
Like I said, I guess don't date a younger girl.
I have absolutely the worst credit, and I am, like, in a lot of debt.
Not to meet people like her.
I saw him as a friend. It wasn't just because that we were dating. I mean, I would have done it for any of my friends.
20-year-old student Emily Sievers is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old electrician Anthony Shizeski, for throwing 2 knives at her. Emily says the knives missed her, but they hit her car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Sievers versus Sizetsky. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Ms. Sievers, the defendant was a former boyfriend of yours,
Yes,
is that right? It is your claim that he assaulted you and then damaged your car. This was after you had already broken up with each other.
Yes.
The defendant says that you caused him to get severely beaten by your current boyfriend, and that while he did, in frustration, throw a rock at your car, causing a small dent, he didn't do the kind of damage to your car that you were also alleging, right?
That's correct.
When did you stop seeing each other?
I moved out of the apartment that we were sharing in the 5th of December of 2001.
And when did this altercation take place that resulted in you being injured?
Monday, June 10th of 2002.
And when was the last time you had contact with each other, prior to June?
I would say in March.
So between March and June, you had no contact at all?
We have mutual friends, so we've seen each other, but we really hadn't, like, hung out or talked very much since then.
Is that right, sir?
No, there wasn't no contact since March.
For a long time? So
Yeah.
she had a new boyfriend, you had a new girlfriend?
Yeah, pretty much.
I have not had a boyfriend since him. So whoever, the people that did assault him, it was not my boyfriend. They were friends.
Friends of yours?
Yes, and friends of his up until that incident.
Well, why don't you tell me your version of the incident of June 10th?
Okay, it started off, myself, my witness, Laura Klingsick, Joe, Mike, and Robbie were all friends. We're at Mike's house, just talking, hanging out. It was probably approximately 9 o'clock at night. Anthony and a few of his friends were walking down the street on the opposite side of the house that we were at.
Do you live on that block, sir?
No, I was currently at a friend's house. He was having a get-together for his birthday, and I'd walk down there. And I'd park my car on the other side of the street.
Okay, go ahead.
JoJo had heard things that Anthony had allegedly said, and I guess had made them both mad at each other. When he came walking down the street with his friends, JoJo approached the end of the driveway. Tony walked across the street. Some words were said, and they began to fight.
Did you cross over from one side of the street to the other,
I
sir?
met the fellow in the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street?
Yeah, he came after me, and it was by the driveway. It was kind of catty-cornered.
Why did you go into the middle of the street?
He was arguing and yelling with me, and before me and him were friends, and I was trying to see what he was, coming across at, and then that's when he lunged forward and attacked me.
Okay, go ahead.
They began fighting, and I was going to try to break it up, and my witness told me, stay out of it, let Mike handle it, it's in front of his house.
So I stepped back. I did let Mike go up and handle it. He broke it up, told both of them to, leave. At that point in time, I saw that Mike and Tony began to fight. And
Mike and Tony?
Yes.
So the person that went over to try to break up the fight
Yes.
started to fight with the defendant?
Because Anthony would not leave.
What did he say, I'm not leaving?
He just stood there. He wouldn't leave.
So what did Mike do?
I did not see who hit who first.
Oh, okay, so you didn't see.
Mm-mm.
Go ahead.
But I did see them fighting. I went down there. I was screaming for them to stop. They were fighting very aggressively. Anthony got brought to the ground, and I saw that he was very badly hurt. He was bleeding.
Where was the other fellow who had originally confronted the
He was
defendant?
standing back. It was just Mike and Anthony fighting at that point in time.
So what happened next? You went over and started to scream.
I just screamed for them to stop. At that point in time, Mike did walk away. Anthony was on the ground. I went to help Anthony up. I saw Mike come back towards him. He kicked him, and at that point in time...
Who kicked who?
Mike kicked Anthony while he was on the ground.
Yes.
At that point in time, Mike walked away. I did grab Anthony's arms to help him up, getting blood head to toe on myself. When he did get almost up to his feet, he pushed me away and told me to get off of him, using some obscenities. At that point in time, he began to walk down towards his car. Myself and his friends that were walking with him walked to his car also. At that point in time, he was in his car. I leaned in to see if he was okay, and he sped off with me halfway, still hanging in the car. His two friends that were with him asked me if I could take them home, and I said yes. So I grabbed my witness, Laura, and we got into the car. They said, can we stop by his house to see if he was okay? And I said, yeah, sure. So I stopped by there. I let them out. They went inside. I waited outside. I was parked in the street in front of his house. I began to get a little scared. When they went in, I saw Anthony busting out his bedroom window with his fists, and it came crashing down onto the ground. At that point in time, Anthony did come out with two objects in his hands, and he began to throw them at me. I ducked, and I do have pictures here of where I was standing in reference to where the knife hit. It slashed the car, and the other knife landed directly behind me. So if I would not have ducked, it would have hit me in my face.
Where were you assaulted? I haven't heard anything about your assault yet.
I was assaulted when I helped him up off the ground. He pushed me away, and when I was hanging in his car, he took off without,
How were you assaulted? I didn't hear anything about you being injured.
Well, I was...
what?
I was not injured physically, but mentally. The knife...
Well, forget mental. Forget mental. I'm not dealing with your mental injury. I don't believe you were assaulted at all. I believe you got involved in a very hot situation.
Well, I don't believe that the hot situation should have led to knives being thrown at my face.
That's not what we're talking about, madam. We're talking about assault on you. And if you went to help him up, and he's already been beaten by one person, he's down on the ground, another person who went over there to help him comes back and kicks him. You, according to you, go over to help him up, and he is covered with blood and, according to you, severely injured, and he pushed you away, and you're not hurt, you're not injured. Why would you sue him for assault?
Well, I believe...
You're in the heat of a moment. You went and followed him to the car. He gets into the car. He's all bloody. According to you, you're really worried about him. He doesn't want to stop and talk to you. He wants to have nothing to do with you. You're touching his car.
The fight was not because of me. I did not
Who
start
knows
the
whether
fight.
it was because of you or not? All I know is you weren't hurt, because if you were hurt, you wouldn't have gotten in your car, driven over to his house. You would have gotten in your car and driven to a hospital.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I don't understand why you went to his house.
Taking his friends home, they asked me
Just
to
a
stop.
second. Let somebody else take his friends home. Madam, why would you go to his house? Don't understand that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Sieber says ex-boyfriend Anthony Shizeski threw two knives at her in a fit of rage. Anthony says he only threw a rock.
Okay. Your turn.
What?
You
Your
pled
Honor,
guilty.
I pled guilty.
To what?
To throwing a rock at her car.
And you did throw a rock at her car.
I did throw a rock
When?
at her car out of frustration. At the time, she did pull up to my house. She was blocking my driveway, would not let me leave. I needed to go to the hospital. I repeatedly told her, please let me leave. I need to get out of here. She refused to. My brother asked her to leave. My mother asked her to leave. The two guys that she supposedly brought over asked her, you need to move out of the way. She's blocking my driveway. So at that point, I began walking to another friend's house so I could go and have medical treatment. I got pictures showing how badly beat I was. This is 2 weeks after
I'd like to see
the
it, please.
incident. Those pictures there show what happened. That was 2 weeks after.
No question. She says you were very badly injured. What was the fight about?
I'm not really 100% sure.
Well, let me try to bring you back a second. You're crossing the street in order to get to Jojo. Is that his name?
Yes,
Joe.
that's his name.
And Joe was crossing the street. Whatever. You get together. Joe starts to say something, and you end up in a brawl. What did Joe say to you?
He was accusing me, I think, of messing around with one of his ex-girlfriends or whatnot. And at that time, I was already involved in another relationship.
So that argument had absolutely nothing to do with the plaintiff.
Nothing.
Now, what happened when Mike came outside?
Me and JoJo had got up off the ground. Mike approached me, said, I don't want fighting in front of my house. My child's here. No fighting. I said, yes, I understand. At that time, her witness...
Just that kind of calm, right?
Well, not really
No.
that kind of calm.
Okay.
I mean, there was a little bit of frustration going on. But at that time, her witness had grabbed Mike's child and carried her into the house. And I kind of noticed that. And when I noticed that, that's exactly when Mike turned around and punched me. I fell to the ground. He punched me again. I was trying to get up, and that's when he kicked me. Finally, you know, there was a break to where I could get up, and I went to my car, and I went immediately home. I was bleeding badly, really badly, so I wanted to go home, let my mom know what was going on, go to the hospital. That time she shows up, will not leave. I'm asking her nicely, please leave. Finally,
Well, what
you know,
was
she's
she
not-
saying to you?
I couldn't really make out what she was saying. I mean, at that time, I mean, I was so badly kicked and punched. I mean, my face was swollen. I couldn't even make out objects to really see. I mean, I just know she was there. I asked her to leave. There was no reason for her to be there.
Well, when you said to her, I'm asking you to leave, just get... You didn't say, would you please leave?
No,
So
I
you-
didn't say, no, I didn't say it like
Yeah, I
that.
mean-
I was being...
Well, you said, get out of here, you cursed, whatever else.
Yes, Your Honor.
And she did not leave.
No, she denied to. She said, no, she's not leaving. She's staying there. You know
No,
what I
that
mean?
doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound like she would say, I'm not leaving, I'm just staying here.
Well, I mean, I don't know
Go
if
ahead,
that's...
what?
Okay, I have a witness that can justify that the only time he asked us to leave was after he threw the knives at me, and the only reason why I would not leave after he threw the knives was because I had already called the police.
I don't understand why you went to his house. Madam.
Taking his friends home, they asked me
Just
to
a
stop.
second. Let somebody else take his friends home. I don't understand why you, who just told me you were assaulted twice, once when he knocked you over, when he pushed you away, once when he sped off and you were hanging onto the car, why in the world didn't you just mind your own business? Why would you go to his house? Don't understand that.
Well, I was sitting out in the street. I didn't believe that.
Why
anything
would you
happened.
go to his house?
To drop off his friends to make sure that they
Why
were
would you get involved? Who does he live with?
He lives with his mom.
Okay. His mother can take care of him. She took care of him from the time he was born. What did you go to his house for?
I also wanted to make sure he was okay. I was waiting for his friends
Call
to come
his
out.
house.
He did not have a phone.
His mother doesn't have a phone?
Mm-mm.
I don't believe that. I believe that's a lot of who shot John.
I mean, she had a cell phone, but I did not know the number.
Listen carefully to me. You take the friends home and drop them off because you say, I don't want to be involved with him. He's a lunatic. He assaulted me twice. Why would I go and sit in front of his driveway?
It was a spur of the moment thinking. It was
Spur of the moment.
It
I'm a
was a
spur of the
stupid-
moment girl. Listen, let me see the car and let me see the estimate. He already told me he pled guilty to damaging your car. Over that, I have very, very little latitude, sir. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Also, Your Honor, there was 2 knives found right next to the car. One of them was broken, and it is in the police report.
How did this moonroof get broken?
The knife, the velocity of the knife that it was thrown at.
How much did the insurance company pay? This is a relatively new car.
My deductible is $500.
Good, so that's what it cost you. Minimally, you at least put yourself into harm's way. I don't know what part you had to do with all of this once you drove his friends home. I know that it was very poor judgment on your part, considering the fact that 2 different people had escalated into a bad fight where he was, according to you, severely injured, and you should have stayed away. Why you got involved in the heat of the moment, I don't know, but you put yourself in harm's way by going to his house. What you should have done is, if there was damage to your car, you go through your insurance, you let them fix it, you have a $500 deductible, and he pays the deductible, so it doesn't cost you anything, which is exactly what I plan on doing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Period. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Throwing knives at someone is a very scary thing.
She's extremely jealous of me from the very moment that we first got together.
If he would have asked me to leave and I knew that he was that upset, I would have left.
We're watching your date.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Cleary versus Gray, step forward, please.
Homemaker Sandy Cleary and her son, 5-year-old Nicholas, are suing their neighbor, accounts receivable clerk Cynthia Gray. Sandy claims Cynthia's dog bit Nicholas in the face.
Miss Cleary, this is your little boy?
Yes.
What's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, why don't you come up here? You're going to sit right up here next to me.
Okay, hold on. There you go.
Nicholas, how old are you?
5.
You know who I am?
It's Judy.
Right. Do you ever watch me on television? You know what it is to be in court? Is this court where you are now? Okay. You know you have to tell the truth when you're in court, right? Okay, Nicholas, you just sit there. I'll be back to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The fence doesn't work too well. The gate doesn't work too well. Where were you?
It happened so quickly.
So where was he when it happened?
The gate had opened. He went inside.
And you weren't close enough, Miss Cleary.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandy Cleary says neighbor Cynthia Gray's dog bit her 5-year-old son Nicholas in the face.
Show me where you were bitten, Nicholas.
On my nose.
On your nose? Looks okay to me. Is it all better now? It's all better? Good. Miss Cleary, you and the defendant are neighbors, and according to your complaint, one of her dogs bit your son.
Correct.
You want her to pay you $5,000 for whatever. Pain, suffering, a whole bunch of other things. How far away do you live from Mrs. Gray?
We have an apartment complex that we live in, and there's a home dividing Cindy's home to our apartment complex.
She lives in a private house?
Correct.
With a yard?
Correct.
With a fenced yard?
Yes.
How high is the fence?
It's probably about Nicholas's height, maybe a little bit taller.
And what kind of dogs does she have?
She has a medium-sized dog, mixed breed, and a little Chihuahua-sized dog.
Okay, and her dogs are behind the fence?
Correct.
Always behind the fence, unless she's walking them.
Well, not so correct on that one. Sometimes the dogs are free to either get out with the children also in the neighborhood to go in.
No, the children don't go in, I assume, unless their parents are with them.
Well, Cindy has also a young son, and my children, as well as other neighborhood children, have been able to go into the backyard to see if he's there to play.
Okay.
Versus the front door, actually.
No, but you wouldn't allow your 5-year-old to go there.
No.
Of course not. So, on what date was Nicholas bitten?
September 10th.
And where were you?
I was in the front yard of our apartment complex.
And who was with Nicholas?
His little friend, Lily.
How old is Lily?
She's the same age.
So you have 2 5-year-olds. And you were watching them?
Yes.
Well, tell me what happened.
Well, what happened was Nicholas and Lily both had asked if they could go see Nina and Riley.
Nina and Riley are the 2 dogs?
The 2 dogs, correct.
Yes.
And I said that would be okay, but it didn't look as if anybody was home and to please not go into the fence, as children always do. And he said okay, and the last I knew, he went to go and see the dogs, and then started screaming.
Just a minute. When he and Lily, also age 5, went over to the defendant's home, could you see your son?
No, Your Honor, I could not.
Why not?
Because, I mean, it's very close quarters. Her driveway goes back a little further than where ours does.
Yes.
It happened very quickly. My older son had also gone over there with them.
Where's your older son?
He's not here today. He didn't see what happened as well.
Then I don't need him here. So what you're saying is your son went into her yard.
Yes. The gate has never been a real well-shutting gate.
That's not the issue, whether it's shut well or not. Ms. Cleary, you are the parent.
Correct.
You have a responsibility. You have a 5-year-old child. Your 5-year-old child should not be out of your sight when playing out in the street. And if your 5-year-old child comes to you and says, I want to go and play with the 2 dogs, and you believe, as you said, that the defendant is not home or that nobody is home, you get off your duff and you get up and you say, you want to go and see the dogs, I will go with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Madam, this is your fault. This is not the defendant's fault. She has 2 dogs. Her dogs are behind a fence, well protected. If your son hadn't gone into the yard, your son would not have gotten bitten. And you just told me that the fence doesn't work too well, the gate doesn't work too well. Where are you? I mean, you're out talking to a friend? It's your job to watch him. And if you were negligent in taking care of your own son, don't blame anybody else.
Your Honor, I am not blaming anybody else. It happened so quickly. I instructed him that he could only pet the dogs over the fence, as he always does. The children and him, they always pet the
So
dogs.
where was he when it happened?
The gate had opened. He went inside.
Then you weren't close enough, Miss Cleary.
I disagree, Your Honor, but...
Well, that's your prerogative to disagree. I'm telling you, it's your fault. It's not her fault. Your son went into her property, and you were outside, and it's your responsibility to take care of your child. It's not her responsibility to take care of your child. And you had the opportunity to do that by taking him by the hand with his friend Lily, walking him over to the fence, saying, I want to go and pet the dogs. Fine. Don't go into the yard, because you don't know what 2 5-year-olds do. 2 5-year-olds don't always have judgment. And this is a situation where you're looking to blame somebody else for your negligence, malfeasance, lack of proper parenting, and you're not going to do that here. Your case is dismissed. You were wonderful, Nicholas. Goodbye.
All these are excuses. You may step out.
She needs to learn her parenting much better.
It was simply an accident.
I think Nicholas is really sweet, but I don't think it was my dogs.
Actually, this woman had no concern for my son.
I'd ask many times to keep him home when I wasn't home.
This woman has harassed my family and I numerous times.
She came down screaming and yelling the night of the 10th.
Actually,
you
I
can't
asked
really
if the dog
speak
was
to her. You have
vaccinated.
to scream and yell.
She came out basically very defensive, saying his blood was on her side of the property.
She went off with her little friend screaming and yelling that they're going to effing sue you, effing this, effing that, just like every day goes.
He was screaming with a face full of blood.
We're in escrow on a new house, and we get to get away from the screaming maniac.
He wasn't very nice about it. There was no apology, none.
There won't be.
Rita Candia is suing her ex-boyfriend, advertising salesman Julio Castro, for bail money and unpaid rent. Julio says it was Rita's fault he went to jail.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 460 on the calendar in the matter of Candia versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Candia, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
You don't live together anymore, and according to your complaint, he owes you for bail money. He had been arrested on a domestic violence complaint. I assume you were the victim in that domestic violence complaint.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you want him to pay his portion of the remainder of the lease on the apartment that you live in, despite the fact that you put him out of the house. You say he's responsible for it, he's on the lease, he should pay. When was he arrested for domestic violence?
On November 16th.
What were the circumstances of his arrest?
We went to a wedding. It was Julio and my daughter and myself.
How old's your daughter?
She's 1.5 years.
Okay.
And Julio was drinking quite a bit. I asked him to slow down, but he chose not to. He got pretty intoxicated. He got to the point where he wasn't really coordinated in his walk, so we left, and he started to get belligerent in the car.
So you were driving and he was in the passenger seat?
I have a van, so he was in the back with the baby in the car seat.
What was he doing in the back?
He was yelling a lot of names at me, getting really
nasty.
Yes. And I was concerned about my daughter. She was awake and she saw him acting this way. And I told him to stop. He wouldn't, so I told him to get out of the car. I pulled over, told him to get out. First he refused, and then he got out. And then I realized that we were on a busy street. It was in San Francisco. And knowing that he was not walking right, I didn't want him to get hit by a car, so I came out of the car and I asked him to be respectful to me, and I would, drive him home and stuff like that. And he kept arguing with me, and it turned violent at that point.
What do you mean it turned violent? What happened?
Well, he started to urinate on a tree. And
on a busy street in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds charming.
And I guess he thought it was funny. He started to urinate on my shoe.
Well, he thought it was funny again. Yeah.
He started to urinate on my shoe, and I kind of pushed him away. But I guess he thought I was attacking him, and he just started basically hitting me.
And somebody called the police?
It was 3 ladies in a car were honking the horn at him to stop.
And they must have called the police?
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they arrested you. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Perfect! Exactly what should have happened, right?
Yes.
You don't think anything else should have happened, right?
No.
You were drunk. You were abusive. You were urinating in public. You were hitting her, pushing her. So you should have been arrested, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I?
Sure. I want to hear you.
You know, we have a commitment. We make a commitment to each other. That,
No, you didn't. What kind of commitment do you have?
Well, if I drink, she drive, and if she...
Oh, I thought you were talking about a marriage commitment,
No,
sir.
no, no.
Oh, no. You have a commitment that if you drink, she drives. And
Or
if she drinks, you drive.
I drive, right.
Good. So you have an arrangement, not a
An
commitment.
arrangement,
A
I'm
commitment
sorry.
is something that two people
Right.
usually have together when they start a family,
Okay,
when
an
they make a
arrangement, I'm
baby.
sorry.
You know, they go to a minister, they go to a rabbi, they go to a priest, they go to a clerk, they get married. They, you know,
Right.
you do. You
Okay.
know what I'm talking about.
So an arrangement.
You had an arrangement.
Right.
The arrangement was when you drink, she drives you home. So I'm listening. I'm waiting. Let me hear you.
We had similar circumstances when she drinks. She gets
I'm not
fired.
interested in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Did she ever urinate on your foot?
She did worse than that, Your Honor.
I don't want to know.
But I'm not
about it.
here for that, right?
I want you to tell me what happened that day
Okay.
that in any way minimizes your fault, your culpability.
Well, I don't feel that I should pay all the money to her.
Very
we went
few
to a
people
wedding.
do.
She started hitting me, and she did this, pulled me out of the car. I wasn't doing anything back there.
I believe she pulled you out of the car. I believe she did. Listen, just because she's very soft-spoken, I don't necessarily buy into that. You understand that, don't you? Huh?
Yes.
I believe that you grabbed him, pulled him out of the car. And that's why he got out. And you have no right to open up your big fresh mouth in front of a baby.
I wasn't doing that, Your Honor.
Well, why would you think, sir, that she would pull you out of the
She
car?
thought I was on the phone talking to my ex-girlfriend. That's what she pulled
In the
car
back
over.
of the car?
In the van, right.
Were you on the phone?
No. I don't even know my ex-girlfriend's phone number.
Was that true that he was on the phone?
He
Look
was
at
talking,
me.
He was talking to his son on the phone.
You know anything about a phone call to his ex-girlfriend? Look at me. Right here.
I heard him mention
Look at me.
her name, but
You did.
I asked him
You did. When did you hear him mention her name?
during the conversation with his son.
With his son?
Yeah.
Did that make you angry?
That's what they...
Yep. Did that make you
Yes, I
angry?
questioned him about it.
Okay. Very good. You see what happens, how the worm turns? We get some information? Good. Now, you questioned him about it. We don't question about it. You got angry.
I did question him about it.
And what did he say to you when you questioned him about it?
Nothing. He really didn't have any answer for me. He
You're
just
not-
kind
I-
of looked cross-eyed to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody that's going to drink. I get happy, if anything. And I feel like she provoked me to do what I did. Whatever
You can't
I did.
provoke somebody.
Well, and I'm not saying that it was right.
Good. Why don't we just stop there? Nobody can provoke another human being into indulging themselves in violence. You can't do that. Because you're supposed to be able to
But I
control
was
yourself.
not
That's what
screaming or
makes us
seeing-
different
I wasn't
from
screaming in
animals.
front of my daughter or anything like that.
That's what
After the
makes us-
phone call is when
My
she
mouth-
started.
My mouth is moving. Mr. Castro, human beings control themselves. Animals can't control themselves. And if you drink to a point where you can't control yourself and you just act out the way you feel, you have to be responsible for that. So 3 ladies in a car were so concerned about what they saw that they called the police and you were arrested. And that was the bail. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay. Why is he responsible for the bail?
I picked him up. I asked him when we were walking across the street to the bailiff's office. I told him how important I needed that money back.
And what did he say?
He told me he promised he would pay me back every single penny.
Is that right?
I don't remember saying that, Your Honor. I started paying her because it wasn't enough money for the bail, and she told me she needed some money, so I said, okay, I'll give you. So I gave her $500 and
Afterwards, sir.
Afterwards.
Don't play with me. After she posted the bail, you started to pay her back.
Yes.
Not on your way over to get the bail, afterwards. And how much did you pay her back?
$500.
That's what she says. Now, how long were you in jail, sir?
16 hours, something like that.
Okay, so not long. So
No.
you got out on the 17th. When you got out, where did you go?
We went back to the house.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did you leave the house?
10 days later, because it was just
Tell
a
me
lot
what
of
happened.
arguing and fightings and
Tell
just
me what
arg-
happened 10 days later.
Well, from the time I got out of jail, maybe the following day, she just, and I understand, she felt like she didn't want me around, and we just kept arguing every day. She's got a 14-year-old, and it was arguing all day in front of the kids, calling each other names, and just, you know,
So you decided to leave?
I decided to leave. I thought it was the best thing for both of us.
Probably true.
For the kids.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
Good. Why do you think he should pay for the balance of the lease?
Because he chose to leave, and he's...
No. You didn't want him to stay. And it was dangerous for him to stay. You have a 14-year-old and an infant? Why should they be around constant bickering and quarreling?
True, Your Honor, but, you know, he signed a lease that, you know, he should at least fulfill his lease.
Well, where do you expect him to live? You
He
can't
lives
pay
with
rent
his-
at your house
he
and
lives with his
someplace
son.
else.
He doesn't pay anything at his son. I don't see why he cannot pay the remainder of the lease.
You should take him to court for child support. He should pay child support.
That's not true, Your Honor. I still pay my son for living there. I don't live there for free.
No. I'm not talking about where you're living now. You pay your son. I'm talking about child support for your baby, sir.
I'm taking care of my baby.
You mean the baby lives with you?
No, I'm helping her with the baby.
What do you mean you're helping her? Tell me.
Giving her money.
How much?
Uh,
It's not an answer.
500
500 a what?
a month,
When was the last time you gave her $500?
December. Well, I paid the rent that month.
In
I paid half
December?
of the rent, yes.
How much
So,
was half of the rent?
$675.
Did he pay half of the December's rent?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what about January?
No.
Why not?
Because we were coming to court.
You have to support your child.
Yes, I do. I know.
She shouldn't have to take you to court to get you to do that. You should do that by yourself. But you have to do that regularly, every week or every 2 weeks or every month.
I never said that I wasn't going to pay child support or I wasn't going to help my daughter.
You have to do it.
I know. I never.
A month went by. So far, I didn't see any money. Where was the money for last month?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Why not?
Well, I was waiting for the court.
What do you mean you were waiting? Child has to eat, right?
Well, she eats all the time. I still go over there and. You know,
Mr. Castro,
I still
Mr.
go
Castro,
to Safeway and
what
get
you're
her
supposed
food.
to do
and
is take care of your responsibilities. Do you understand?
I think I do take care.
Well,
of
you didn't. A, you didn't take care of your bail. You paid $500, and the bail, according to the plaintiff, was $3,500, leaving a balance of $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me see the paperwork. So that's not taking care of your responsibility. It's your bail. You acted badly. You failed to control yourself. It's not her bail, it's yours. And you said you would pay her back. And you did give her $500, but then you stopped. I want to know why you stopped. And you have no answer for that? Is this the first time you were arrested for domestic violence, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
First time you were arrested?
No.
When was the last time you were arrested?
1991.
Were you ever incarcerated?
No.
What happened with this case?
He was dismissed. I was supposed to go to court the following Wednesday, and when I showed up for court, they said that the case was dismissed.
Okay. $3,000 he owes you. I don't think he's responsible for the rest of the rent. I think, however, he is responsible for child support. You live there with your 2 children? You have 2 children?
Yes.
Do you get child support for your 14-year-old son?
No.
Why not?
His father's deceased.
So does he get Social Security?
No. He's been deceased since I was 7 months pregnant, so I was very young. I did not do anything about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rita Candia says, during a night out, ex-boyfriend Julio Castro became drunk and belligerent.
You have to start to pay some child support, Mr. Castro.
I don't have a problem with that, Your Honor.
Very good. How much are you going to pay her?
We talked about between $500 and $600.
When was the last time you talked about it?
Maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
How much money did he give you last month?
Nothing.
Is that right, Mr.
He just
Castro?
gave me maybe diapers.
Right.
Mr. Castro, the first thing I want you to do when you get home is write her out a check. Write her out a check for $500. Because along with certain pleasures that you get from children, you also have responsibilities. So you
I don't have a problem with that.
Then start paying. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't feel like it was all my fault.
I didn't pour alcohol down his throat.
We were both drinking.
When the red flags show, listen to it or walk away from it.
Jason Meisted and his fiancée, Tammy Tucker, are suing construction supervisor Joseph Gocher for an assault at a gas station. He says Jason wouldn't move his truck.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Mystead Tucker versus Gocher. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Who's going to be speaking for the plaintiff's side? You are. What is your name, sir?
Jason.
Okay. Now, is your complaint that Mr. Gocher both damaged your car and assaulted you when you wouldn't move fast enough at a gas pump?
Yes.
The defendant says that you were the instigator of this unfortunate incident. Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
No. All right. Who is this?
This is my witness.
Was he driving in the truck with you?
He was driving the crew truck that we were trying to fuel up, yes.
Was he driving in the truck that you were driving?
Oh, no, ma'am. I'm sorry.
It's a simple question. He was not. He was behind you.
No, he was at a separate island. I had parked at another island.
Who was behind the plaintiff's truck?
The truck that my witness was driving.
Step up here. Tell me your name.
David Wolford.
What kind of vehicle did they have?
I believe it was a Ford Ranger.
You pulled up behind them
Yes, ma'am.
in order to put gas in your...
Truck, yes.
What kind of truck was it?
It's a big 1-ton. I was pulling a big trailer.
Where were you going?
We were going to San Francisco on for a job.
How many cars were in, or trucks were in the caravan that you were in?
There was 2.
Where was the defendant's truck in relation to your truck when you pulled up to the gas station?
He was the next pump over on the other side.
Did he have a gas pump available to him?
Yes.
Was he putting gas in his truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about you?
No, ma'am. I pulled up behind him.
Behind him?
Yes, ma'am. Behind him.
Yes.
And sat there. My brother got out, and we walked around there. We sat and waited. And my brother-in-law turned his pump on, come over and give us our gas.
Who's your brother-in-law?
Joe, I'm sorry.
He's the brother-in-law.
Yes, ma'am. And he come over and give us the gas card where we can get gas when we got up there.
Okay.
And he went back in to get coffee and got his coffee, come back out, and the guy was still sitting there, the defendant.
What were they doing?
Ma'am, I don't know.
They were just sitting in the truck?
Sitting in the truck, yes.
Okay. Had they put gas in their car?
Yes, they were.
Did you see them put gas in their car?
Yes, we were pulling in. He was shutting the gas tank and getting in.
Was he alone at that time?
She was in the truck with him.
So he gets finished putting gas in his truck and comes over to give you the card so that you could put gas in your truck.
Yeah, he started his and started pumping it and brought me the card.
And you're sitting behind these people. Now,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
happens next, sir?
We sat there, and like I said, he went and got coffee. And the whole time, they were just sitting in their truck. He come back, and he hollered, you guys move your truck. She turned around and looked. And they kept sitting there. He said, move the damn truck. And the guy just, about 4 or 5 inches, just burned his tire and stopped, just sat there.
What are you talking about? He just burned his... You mean he moved the truck?
Just about 6 inches, just barely burnt the tires,
Okay.
just enough to make the tires burn. And then my brother-in-law continuously told him, come on, move the truck, we got to go. And she opened the back window and told him, wait a effing minute, we'll move the truck. And he told her to shut up. And
Who told her to shut up?
My brother-in-law. You just shut up, move the truck.
Who was driving the truck?
The gentleman.
He was?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And
Uncross your arms.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then he got out of the truck. The plaintiff got out of the truck, slammed his door open, and come out towards my brother-in-law with his fist rolled up. So my brother-in-law,
Explain to me. Fist rolled up. Show me what that means.
like, he come out like this and come towards you. And my brother-in-law grabbed him by his shirt because, it looked like to me he was wanting to fight. When he come out, it looked like he was going to hit him. So he grabbed him. They started rolling around on the truck. My brother, that couldn't make it today, grabbed my brother-in-law, and I grabbed him, and I was holding him, and all the words stopped, and he relaxed. So I let him go. When I let him go, he took and swung and hit my brother-in-law in his glasses. Hit his glasses, cut his eye. So my other brother let him go because, there wasn't no sense of holding him and letting him get, beat up. So then they continued fighting. Anyway, they wrestled towards the truck, and they separated, and he told his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure what she is, and told her, come on, get in the truck, let's go. So she got in, he took off, burning the tires out of there.
Now let me hear your version, sir.
Okay, I was getting gas.
Uncross your arms.
I was pumping gas when the truck pulled up behind me, just like they said. He pulled up at another gas pump. I don't believe he was getting gas. He walked over, started talking to the 2 guys behind me. When I was done getting gas, I got in my truck, I adjusted my seat, put my seatbelt on. Before I could drive away, he started punching the bed of my truck, yelling, "Let's go, let's go, let's go."
It's not true, Your Honor. I object.
I didn't ask you to say a word.
She opened the back...
Just a second. Did you understand what
Yes,
I said?
ma'am.
She opened the back window and said, "Stop hitting my truck." I said, "Move this piece." I let that go. I started to drive away. My 6-month-old son, who was in the front seat, dropped his bottle. I stopped, picked it up, handed it to him. Before I could drive away again, he started hitting the truck again, and now he started yelling, "Ram him, ram him, ram him," push him out of the way. At this point, I wanted to get out of the truck to see how many dents he put in my truck, which he did. He put 3 in the bed. She told him, before I could get out, I said, "Stop hitting the truck, and if you give us a second, we're moving." That's when he said, "Shut your mouth, you crazy effing bee."
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The next thing I know, I'm on all fours, blood pouring out of my face.
I looked towards the truck, looking at his rearview mirror, said, "Hey, move the truck."
Your hot temper started the problem. My temper is going to finish it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Meisted claims he was assaulted by Joseph Gocher. Joseph says Jason was blocking the pumps at a gas station.
Go ahead.
I got out of the truck to see the damage. Before I could even get back to the damage, he grabbed me by the throat with both hands and bent me backwards over into the bed of the truck. I then stood up. When I stood up...
Right.
When I stood up, he still had me by the throat. I don't know who it was, but one of the guys in the truck behind me grabbed my arms and put them behind my back. She, at this point, tried to help me. She couldn't do anything because one of the other guys grabbed her and threw her back into the gas pump. I don't know who it was, had my arms behind my back. They ran me into the door that was open. The next thing I know, I'm on all fours, blood pouring out of my face. I jumped up, I told her, I said, "Get in the truck." She got in the truck, we drove home, and I called 911.
When you called 911, did you file a report?
Yes.
Can I see the report, please? Did you know him from before?
No.
It says when his neighbor, later identified as Joseph Gocher, is he a neighbor of yours?
He lives 4 houses down.
So what do you mean you didn't know him before?
I mean, I've seen him, but I didn't know him. I don't know who he is.
4 houses down from where you're currently living?
Yes.
Did you ever had any problem with him before?
No.
And you didn't know his name?
No.
Who's Robert?
It's my brother.
Hmm? Well, at least Robert's honest. Robert tried to restrain him because he knows he's got a bad temper. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Sit down. Now, Mr. Gocher, you want to tell me your version of these events?
Yes, ma'am. Upon pulling into the gas station, I put my truck in one stall, started fueling it, and we used a company credit card. It was company vehicles. I then took the card over to Robert, gave it to him while we were waiting for Mr. Meisted to move. I went into the store, got coffee, came back out. They still hadn't pulled up, but his truck was running. I finished fueling mine, and then I asked Robert, which was one of the other crew members, I asked him what the problem was. And I walked over there to the front of our crew truck. And he said, "The guy won't move. He's still sitting there." So I looked towards the truck, looking at his rearview mirror, said, "Hey, move the truck." And
Let me stop you there for a moment, sir. According to what you just told me, you started the gas pumping in your truck, is that right? And then you went in for coffee?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me about going in for coffee.
Well, I started the gas pump in my truck.
Correct.
I have a separate vehicle. I walked over, handed my brother-in-law the card.
Right.
And then I went in.
Just a second. That just took a couple of seconds, right?
Right. And then
He
I
said
went inside to
you
make
didn't say,
coffee.
shh. You didn't say anything to him. You just handed him the card and said, he understood that he was supposed to fill up the gas tank.
Correct.
Correct? And meanwhile, the gas is still pumping in your truck. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you went inside. Were there other people inside in the
There was a
convenience
few,
store?
yes.
How many?
Oh, roughly 5.
And so you went over to get coffee. Did you get a large coffee or a small coffee?
I got a 20-ounce cup of coffee.
You take your coffee black?
No, cream and sugar.
So after you filled in this 20-ounce cup, then you put in cream. How many?
2.
And sugar? How many?
It's in a big container. Pour roughly 2-3 tablespoons or 2-3 teaspoons.
And then you walked over to pay.
Correct.
Is there anyone before you when you paid?
There was one person at the counter, yes.
And so they had to pay for whatever they were getting. Is that right?
They were in the process, yes.
And did they get change?
Yeah.
And what about you? How much was your 20-ounce coffee?
$1.06.
Did you have exact change?
I gave her $1 and a dime.
And she had to make change?
I leave it. I never even get it. I walk out after that.
Okay. Now you're walking out and you've got this hot cup of coffee in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you walked over to your truck, I assume, to get rid of this hot cup of coffee.
Actually, I set it on the toolbox because my truck had finished pumping. I set it on the toolbox.
That's my point, sir. You put on the gas. You didn't stay with your truck. You walked inside, took care of your business. Anybody who pulled up behind you waiting for your truck to be finished would have to sit and wait for you to come out from getting your coffee with cream and sugar and paying the bill and waiting behind somebody else who was also getting their stuff. You didn't give a rat's behind about somebody waiting for you. You said, let him wait. You didn't even think about it. You went inside. Oh, sure, because you said my gas was already finished pumping.
No, because I know how long it takes for me to walk in,
Bull!
get a cup,
Bull!
and my truck was totally empty,
You know,
so I know how long it takes to
I'm
fill
10 steps
up.
ahead of you, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Meisted claims he was assaulted by Joseph Gocher. Joseph says Jason was blocking the pumps at a gas station.
So, you walked inside and you didn't care. You said, walk inside and get my coffee. You didn't finish putting the gas in the car, putting back the cover, moving your truck over to the side so that somebody else could come and get gas. You took care of your business.
There was nobody
and then
behind me waiting.
Just a second. And then, well, that being the case, sir, you could have had him pull up behind you. It didn't bother you one bit that somebody may have been waiting an extra maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, maybe 1 minute for you to come out with your coffee and move your truck.
No,
that didn't bother you at all. You are some hothead. You are some hothead. And Robert knows it, because Robert said to the police, I went over there because he's a hothead, and I wanted to make sure he didn't cause any trouble. That's what Robert said to the police.
No, when I'm confrontated, yes, I do tend to go.
Confrontated is not a word, sir.
Well,
not in the English language. Not in the English language.
Confronted.
You got a hot temper. What do you think he was doing in there? Do you think he was writing a song? What do you think he was doing in the truck? He's got his wife or girlfriend who's pregnant. He's got a baby, a 6-month-old baby in the car. What do you think he's doing?
Oh.
For you to get so excited. You want to be a human being? You walk over and you say, is there something wrong? Is there any reason you're not moving? You don't shout like you did and call her a name like you did. Because even he knows you did it.
I admit to doing it.
Well, then
No
you're
problem.
responsible. Then you're responsible for the damage to his car.
But I didn't hit his truck. I never touched his truck.
Listen to me, sir. His truck was damaged, according to the police, by him being thrown into the car.
To the door.
Right. You're responsible for that. You started the problem.
I offered
Your
to pay for the door.
your hot temper started the problem. My temper is going to finish it. Because there was no reason for you to put your hands on him to start this whole confrontation. You took your sweet time going into a convenience store, getting your coffee, and you didn't give a hoot about who was waiting behind you, about somebody else looking to pull their car up and get gas. When I get finished, I can just imagine your attitude if someone who was behind your truck saying, what do you mean you went in to get coffee and just left your truck here? What are you, crazy? You stupid SOB? You would explode. You would have a fit.
If somebody was behind me, I'd just move the truck out of the way.
How can you do that, sir? You're putting cream in your coffee.
There was nobody.
Can
There
I
was
see the
nobody
damage
behind
to your
me.
truck, please? Mr. Meisted, I'm not finished with you either. I want to tell you something. You didn't use your brains either, because you're dealing with someone who is not wrapped too tight, who's got a hot temper, who got your goat because he called your wife a name. You get out of your car or your truck, she's in the car, you got a baby in the car, and you start a confrontation with him. That's not swift, sir. That's not swift. You're dealing with somebody who has a bad temper. You're better off pulling away, going to the police, and saying, I believe someone just damaged my car. This is what their car looked like. Right?
True.
Right? That's what you do when you're dealing with somebody who's a lunatic. My only problem is, the only reason he wasn't arrested is because he had 2 witnesses who testified to some cock and bull story. You have pictures of yourself, sir?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. I see a lot of feet pictures. I don't see any injury here, sir.
It's the ankle.
What happened to your ankle?
Well, I broke it back in on June 30th. I just got off a cane when this all happened, and there's a re-injury. Here's my emergency room records of going back in.
How much did the emergency room cost you?
It was $619.
Between the emergency room visit only, which is all that I'm considering, and the damage to the car, which is $1,724, $2,343. Now, what you're suing for is $5,000, sir, because you want also to be paid for lost wages due to assault, to the assault.
Yes.
What lost wages did you have?
Well, like I said, I broke my ankle on June 30th. I was on crutches for 6 weeks with the cast. When I got the cast off, I was on crutches for a month. I went to rehabilitation, was on a cane.
That has nothing to do with him.
Well, no, I just got off a cane, just got back to work. When he assaults me, and with the emergency room records there and seeing my doctor, I was back on disability for another month.
Chalk that up to your own stupidity. I told you that there is a contributory negligence on your part, contributory stupidity. If you would just get off of crutches, he was wife or his girlfriend?
I'm his girlfriend.
Girlfriend had to take care of you 6 months. You weren't working. You explained to me the wisdom of getting out of the truck, your truck, to confront him.
Well, when somebody's punching your truck, don't I have the right to get out and look at the damage?
No. What you're supposed to do when you have a nut who's hitting your car.
I didn't know he was a nut.
Oh, no? You didn't know he was a nut? You didn't know he was hitting your car because you weren't moving fast enough?
And I don't have the right to get out and check out the damage?
I'm not talking about right. I'm talking about using your brains. I'm talking about trying to be a little smart, just like you drove off and try to find a police officer. Is that what you try to do? Then you do that first. You don't do that after the damage is done. You try to do that first, especially when you have a baby in the car.
I did try to drive away the first time.
Yes.
And they punched my truck again.
So, even more so, the guy's a real nut. He hit my car a second time, and I'm driving away. How many babies do you have?
This will be number 2.
Grow up. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of both the damage and the emergency room treatment, which is $2,343. As far as your lost wages is concerned, chalk that up to the fact that you didn't use good judgment. Because he is a hot-tempered idiot doesn't mean that you react when you have a baby in the car to somebody who's acting inappropriately and like they're not wrapped too tight. That's what you're supposed to do if you're a responsible parent. By the way, is there any reason why the two of you aren't married?
We're engaged.
Is there any reason why the two of you who are having a second child, why you're not married?
What does that matter?
I'm just curious. I said as a matter of curiosity.
We're actually-
matter of responsibility.
We've been engaged and we plan on getting married, yes.
Well, is there any reason, madam, why before you have your second child that you don't decide to make that
Because I
kind
don't
of a
want to be
commitment?
pregnant walking down my aisle. I want to...
Well, you had some time between the first and the second, didn't you?
Yes, I did,
Good.
and I didn't want to get married in the winter.
You want to get married?
Bye-bye. You know, I was under stress to get crew up to San Francisco, and maybe his ankle was hurting him. I don't know.
I got out to see how he was going to fix it.
I was rude. I do admit that's probably set him off.
It was very frightening seeing two men jump my husband and one grab me and throw me into a gas pump because I tried to help him.
I'll park my truck before I get my coffee from now on.
Normal people don't act like that.
And I'm really not a hothead.
Robin Slagle is suing her customer, Jack McCurcheon, for tuition and administrative fees.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2126, Slagle versus McCurcheon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You run a school.
Yes, ma'am. It's a program.
Is it a school or a program?
It's a program.
What's the difference?
The program is not a school where the children come every day. They come twice a week. Parents...
They come twice a week online?
No, we are
in person.
In person, yes.
Okay, so twice a week they are there at a brick and mortar place?
Yes.
And how long have you had this program?
We actually started this program during the lockdown in 2020 spring. So this is at the end of our first semester of our third year.
Okay, and tell me, who runs the program?
I do.
You have an educational background?
I do. I have a master's in education.
Does anybody run the program with you?
I have a staff, but I'm the sole director.
Is this an annual program?
We do operate on a semesterly basis as far as payments, but the classes just roll over from first semester to second semester.
And is there a contract?
Yes.
Okay, and you're going to show me the contract that the defendant signed on behalf of his son.
Yes.
Because that's what this case is about.
Yes.
The only interesting part of the case is your son was enrolled in the program. He was terminated from the program for, let's say, misconduct.
That's true.
And it was misconduct that was replicated in violation of the rules at least 3 times.
Kind of.
Not kind of, at least 3 times that you acknowledge.
Okay.
That's not an okay. That's not an okay.
not.
That's either a yes or a no. I mean, I read about 3 instances of cheating. You acknowledge that in your answer.
Well, it's different. It's different.
You mean he cheated differently?
No, he didn't cheat
Yes, well, that's what-
differently. I mean, I can explain.
It was explained in the papers.
Okay.
And you weren't there, so you can't explain. But you acknowledge the fact that he cheated. He was given a warning. You were advised. He cheated again. You were given a warning, and he was allowed to continue. On the 3rd such event, the school terminated him. Is that what I read?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you acknowledge in your papers.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, that's a yes. And he was within a semester. You had paid the tuition and then tried to reverse the payment because you paid on a credit card.
Yes, I paid with credit card, yes.
Okay, and then when you got the bill, you challenged that payment, which you had in fact received, and whatever you told the credit card company as a result of what you told them, the payment was reversed and taken off your credit card.
That is correct.
Right. And so they are here now seeking that tuition payment from a court. That's why we're here, to see whether contractually, because this is a breach of contract action, you were obligated to pay the tuition even though your son was not in the program because he was dismissed for cause, which you acknowledge. Are we clear on where we are?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So now I'm going to look at the contract.
I'd like to add that...
Just let me look at the contract first.
Well, if you see contract, they're signed by my party. I want to see it too because I don't see my name. I sign a contract. That's a statement probably, or it's a...
It's a payment agreement.
Yeah, that's not a contract.
Yeah, payment agreement is a contract, sir.
But signed by me?
Well, it says signed, Arena and Jack.
Okay.
Is Arena your wife?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So this says, I understand that payments are due even if classes or memberships are dropped, subject to the refund policy. Well, what's the refund policy, and where is that in writing?
It is on our website, and they signed it. It was a form that they had to sign.
Well, I'd like to see the form that they signed, because I have to see what the terms are of that.
These are the terms of the refund.
Thank you.
That's a screenshot of our website.
No, the website is unimportant to me. You say you have an agreement signed by them. I'd like to see it.
Well, the agreement that we have signed was the installment agreement, so I'm sorry.
Well, I only have one payment agreement. What I said I want to see is a refund policy. You said you have that they signed. I don't see
They don't sign the policy. They sign the agreement. The policy is a written policy.
Well, I would like to see the written policy.
That's what we have on our website, and it's clearly...
No.
No? Okay.
No, what you have to do is you have to incorporate something by agreement in this contract. If you say the refund policy as outlined in the website, because other than that, it's meaningless.
Okay.
You know, you're saying we have a refund policy, and we assume that you looked on the website to see what the policy is.
We also do go over it in parent meetings with the parents.
That you can't do because you have a written agreement.
Right.
And anything that's outside of that agreement, unless it's referenced in the agreement, is inadmissible because the intention of it is to somehow change or modify the terms of your written contract. Okay, so in what month did the defendant's son start the program?
In August of 2021.
And it runs in 2 semesters. And when was he terminated?
He was terminated in February of 2022.
You were in a semester program?
Yes.
So am I correct that the first 2 episodes of cheating were in the first semester?
Yes.
When?
The first one was early in November. It happened to be the 3rd week of our 2nd semester. The next one was a couple of weeks later in the same month of November.
Okay, so the semester had started.
second semester.
Yes. And on what day in February was he terminated?
He was terminated on February 24th, I believe, yes.
And when you terminated, the defendant, I assume, paid the entire semester's tuition for the second semester.
The second semester, he signed the installment agreement, which is what you have there.
This is a payment agreement.
Right, that's it. He agreed to pay in installments.
No, it says I agree to pay all charges by due dates according to the payment plan. I don't have a signed payment plan from anybody. Do you have one?
I'm sorry, that's what we use for our signed payment plan.
Well, you should use something different. This is not a payment plan. This says he will pay according to a payment plan. I'm looking for the payment plan. You pay by the month, you pay by the semester. How do you pay?
It's a semesterly fee that's broken into 4 payments, so they don't have to pay it all up front.
Okay.
They can choose to. But
And so when was the defendant's last payment?
they paid through the semester.
Through what semester?
Second semester.
Okay, so they paid in full.
Through the installment. So what happens is they agree to be automatically billed. And so every month, a certain amount comes out.
Just a second. So what you're saying is when they sign up, they give you authority to pull out from their bank.
Yes.
Whatever the tuition is for that month.
Right.
Okay. And according to your records, when was the last payment that you received for the defendant's son prior to terminating him?
Prior to terminating him, we received a payment in February.
And you terminated him on February 24th?
Yes.
How much was that payment?
It was, have it right here. You know what? I don't know.
$350 every
It was
month.
$300, that's right. $350.
I know, I got charged the extra month, so I know the number.
Okay. So it was $350 that you paid the beginning of February, and he was there in February.
That is correct.
Okay. In what month did you dispute the charge?
Well,
No, not well. I said, in what month?
May. I only realized in May she's been charging.
Just a second.
He was plagiarized by teachers.
It was plagiarized by teachers.
He was given notice because he lied on a test by teacher, yeah? But it's not exactly what happened.
They're not in the business of expelling children. They're in the business of keeping children in school. You really have to get this through your head.
Slagle claims her customer, Jack McCurcheon, owes for tuition and administrative fees.
So you paid in February, and your son was there in February.
That is correct.
Did you pay in March?
It was taken out of my account without me knowing, but yes.
Is that $350?
That is correct.
And did you pay in April?
I did pay in April.
Okay. Now, the May payment, is the May payment the payment that you canceled?
No, on the May, I also paid for a May payment. Looking at my statements, I said, why are we paying for the child? He doesn't go to school anymore. And that's when I called them. And then I called my credit card company, explained to what happened. They said, we are going to charge the money back to your account. And that's when I kind of looked through paperwork. And I'm an immigrant in this country. I don't read really well. I can speak. And my son, he's a young guy, and he knows exactly what it is. And that's what I brought him. I said, can you see, do we owe these people money? And if you guys allow it, I can have Alex to explain what here shows.
Just see it. He doesn't have to explain anything to me.
Okay.
I'm not new to the country, and I was legally trained, so I don't need your son. I assume you're not legally trained?
I am not.
To interpret something, a piece of paper. So now I will look at the piece of paper that you're relying on, but I want to tell you this, sir. I pay the tuition for a lot of people, a lot, because I have 13 grandchildren.
Okay.
In school.
Okay.
I'll take that, Kevin. Thank you. I'm sorry. I know that if one of my kids or grandkids goes to school and gets expelled, and I've paid the tuition because I'm not on a payment plan, parents send the bill directly. and so I pay the tuition, but I know if one of the kids in November, once I pay the tuition, gets caught cheating on a test or plagiarizing a paper and he or she is dismissed from the school, they're not going to give me my tuition back, even though he's not in school. I'm not going to get the tuition back for that semester.
That's true.
That's what I'm telling you. I know that. So now I'm going to see what you want me to read that suggests that in this case, even though your son was terminated for cause from the school for cheating.
Dismissal versus termination is different.
No, it's not different at all. It's this exact same thing. Dismissed, terminated, expelled, all the same thing. If you look them up under synonyms for each other in the dictionary, you will find they're all the same. He was excised from the school because he cheated despite multiple warnings. So he was expelled from cause. I just want you to understand that. Did you go to college?
Currently enrolled.
Currently. Stand up. You look like a nice young man. Where do you go to school?
Cal Poly Pomona.
And who pays the tuition?
I do.
Now, what's your first name?
Alex.
Now, Alex, you do know that if you got expelled from college for cheating in the middle of a semester, you wouldn't get your tuition back for that semester. You do know that?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Well, that's what we're dealing with
Could
here.
I add something?
Sure.
Well, according to their honesty policy, they made a clear difference between dismissal and expulsion.
I'm going to look at it. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so what you gave me now acknowledges that you received the refund policy. Thank you very much, because she wasn't able to prove that she gave it to you, but now you gave it to me, so I know you were given the refund policy when you enrolled your son in school.
So we weren't given, but it's something they have it on their website for you to
Just a second. Well, then you look. You don't have to sign. Then you looked at the website. You gave me this. Do you understand?
After
That's what
this
I mean,
happened,
legal.
I went and tried to understand.
Well,
what
you should have
happened.
done it before.
Well,
you were
I own a
perfectly
construction
capable of
company.
doing it
When I
before.
sign a contract, I sign and I explain everything.
You
and
just
people
told
get
me
copies.
5 minutes ago that you didn't sign any contract. Well, now you acknowledge that you signed the contract. I'm just reading this that you gave me.
A contract has to be a complete contract. If
Just
there
a
is
second.
something.
For somebody who's, not here, not from this country, and doesn't understand things, you seem to understand things very well.
I know the contract has to be completed.
Well, that's very good. A lot of people don't know that.
So if I give a contract for a statement, then I say, go in my website to read about our refund policy. That's not part of the contract. That's their rules, no? I didn't sign refund policy.
You don't have to sign a refund policy. You just have to be aware of it.
If I don't know how to get into website or don't.
You gave me the evidence.
But this was done after everything done. I
I'm
looked
not
into
sure.
it. Okay?
You were certainly aware of how to do it, either before or after.
When I sign contract with someone, I disclose everything, and they initial, and they get copies. I get copies, and that's a legal bonding contract.
Good. What law school did you go to?
None.
Well, there are two things here, but the final piece here says the consequence for academic dishonesty or plagiarism is a score of 0 on the assignment and possibly dismissal from the class.
Okay.
So your son did that in the first semester at least twice. Repeated dishonesty can result in suspension or expulsion. Now you can stand up because your father says he doesn't understand everything. I think he understands everything just fine. But in case he wants to have you there. Now, when you were discussing this with your father, did you have any conversation with him that suggested to him that, if I went to college and I cheated 3 times or 4 times or plagiarized a paper and I was kicked out of school, I wouldn't get my tuition back? Did you tell him that?
No, we had similar talks, but no, nothing on the school. We talked about, for instance, the signing contract for, let's say, a 1-year lease agreement to live somewhere, but if you breach the contract and they decide to kick you out, it's the same thing as expulsion. You're not required to finish the 1-year contract with them. You don't have to continue paying.
If they decide.
What are you kidding?
I am not. If you get evicted from a property, do you have to continue paying the entire year's lease?
Yeah. If you breach a lease, he or she can evict you. And yes, you will be responsible for the remainder of the lease.
Oh, I was unaware of that.
Yes, you will be responsible for the remainder of the lease. You have to understand, and your father has to understand, the reason that he was expelled is his fault. And the reason he was expelled had nothing to do with them. It had to do with your father, because you were put on notice that He was plagiarizing and cheating on tests. If what you're suggesting is the 3 times that your son was caught cheating were the only times he cheated, you're deluding yourself. He got caught 3 times. Because if these were the only 3 times that he cheated, he is the unluckiest person on the planet.
Slagle has accused her customer, Jack McCurshian, of refusing to pay tuition. Jack claims he is not required to pay because his son was dismissed from her school.
You were put on notice, and instead of being more vigilant, the conduct continued. He lives in your house. How old is he?
14.
14. Well,
I want to ask about this plagiarizing thing, which it is, because remember, beginning you asked me 3 times. He was plagiarized by teachers, which I was not.
He was plagiarized by teachers.
Like he was given notice because he lied on a test by teacher, yeah? But it's not exactly what happened.
Well, then you should have, just a second, then you should have contested it, sir.
Well,
you should have contested it. Did you say
they don't want him to be out of the school? They don't want him to be there.
No.
What do you do? I mean, you go
what do you
fight
do?
with them?
What do you do? You pay the tuition for that semester because that's your contractual obligation, and you tell your son you better straighten up. And if I have to take you to a psychiatrist, if I have to take you to a therapist, if I have to find a more rigid school environment, I'm going to do that.
Well, he really didn't cheat.
You really have to get this through your head.
When it says cheating, last time he was expelled from school. Do we have a...
No, don't look at her.
That day he had an excellent score on his math, and his last test was his history, and he forgot to learn the history, and he did have a paper with him, but he did not cheat it. Actually, there is no proof he cheated that day.
All right. They're not in the business of expelling children. They're in the business of keeping children in school. How many other students were expelled from the school the semester that this defendant's son was expelled?
0.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're in business of keeping children in school. How many
my son was that bad for her to expel her.
She said they didn't expel any other children. I'm going to ask her, how many children were enrolled in the program at the same time the defendant's son was enrolled in the program?
Approximately 70, 75.
Okay, and of the 70 to 75 students, the only student expelled was the defendant's son.
Yes, ma'am.
That should tell you something, sir. Stop making excuses. Okay. I didn't tell you, he didn't look at the paper, he had it underneath him, but he didn't look at it. Well, plagiarizing. So he copied from somebody on a paper that was supposed to be original work, did it once, he did it twice. Do you understand your son has a problem?
Well, we all have problems.
No, I never had a problem being expelled from school, sir, for cheating. I never had a problem being expelled from school for cheating.
I have lied.
I have 5 children and 13 grandchildren. All have completed college, some professional school. None of them have ever been expelled for cheating. That's a lot of people.
Do you feel it's fair to expel a child from a school because of
cheating?
Cheating?
Absolutely. Not that I usually let people ask me questions, but the answer is absolutely. Because if 70 children are working hard to get good grades and studying and creating original works when they're supposed to create original works, and your son who's getting a 99 on a math test when he's been getting low scores on tests, all of a sudden becomes a shining star one day, and it's a pattern, and then they find another cheat sheet under his bottom. That's something that suggests to the other 70 students that are trying to do the right thing, that it's okay to cheat. And so if you want to cheat on this test to get a 99, it's okay. You can't run a school where you permit kids to mingle with kids who are trying with kids who are cheating. So do I think it's fair? Absolutely. Okay, how much money was reversed by this bank?
$1,050 plus $45, a $15 fee per transaction.
$1,095. Okay, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,095. Sir, your problem is not with the plaintiff. Your problem's with your son.
He's like all of us. He made a mistake. And
no, he didn't make one mistake. I'm going to tell you something. Honestly, I used to say when I was practicing in a different court that if criminals got caught the first time or every time that they committed a crime, they'd stop committing crimes. Problem is, they commit a crime and they don't get caught. And then they commit another crime and they don't get caught. Then they commit third crime and they get caught and they're brought to court. And their lawyer argues this is their first arrest. Not their first crime, because they can't argue that, but it's a first arrest. So if what you're suggesting is the 3 times that your son was caught cheating were the only times he cheated, you're deluding yourself. He got caught 3 times. Because if these were the only 3 times that he cheated, he is the unluckiest person on the planet. Okay, we're done here. 1095, judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
I felt the difference was between the wording, what it means as far as being expelled versus being sent home.
I'm extremely pleased. This was totally a matter of honesty and integrity. And obviously it stems from the father down to the son.
But he explained that's the same word. And again, that's why you come to court, and she did what she had to do.
We have kids that try to cross the line, come close to that line. But as I mentioned, our instructors are pretty savvy and they're on it, and we can tell pretty much so.
I am happy finally done. It's been a burden, it's been a stress, and hopefully it's done.
Cheaters never win.
So I think it's really important for the plaintiffs, as the runners of a homeschooling system or a schooling system, to have a better contract for the parents that are signing, especially with a payment plan option. There should be exhibits attached to the signature page, not just referencing, oh, we're agreeing that we read the policy from the website. It's just as easy for you to reprint it, attach it, and require a signature, an initial on the bottom, so that you don't have parents like these that say, I never went to the website, I never saw it.
I agree with you.
If you have problems like this, there's no denying the fact that you initialed each page and each policy.
I think that it's a learning experience because they just started the program in 2020. And this is probably the first experience that they've had because he's the first never expelled anybody else. But they'll clean up the contract.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin are suing Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, for impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years.
And this is your daughter?
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is? Trisha was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Okay. And right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh, boy. I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car
ma'am.
to their house.
Correct.
When she saw her mother.
Yes.
And then bring it back.
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name. There would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Tricia. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed. And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Tricia, who was living with her father, and Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had...
Where was the car?
The car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th.
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that...
Your Honor, he requested...
Just a second. Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Yes, you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far. See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Captain.
Captain. You can't have her, and I'm taking her home.
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
Well, at least I won't die alone.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Mattis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor.
He was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact.
You don't have to have any contact with them, sir.
In order to.
You don't have to have any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company, you live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed.
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact them Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second. You received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had that the car was impounded?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
Okay. So now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me, and your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. That's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see. Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
up
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7". They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This is
There are
all.
horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is all.
allegations through CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim, I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Oh.
can I say something?
About what?
The car.
before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either.
Okay, that I'll hear. Okay. You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay. I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
The Peppadew pepper on Panera's new Green Goddess Caprese Melt. It's a small detail, but when enough of those details are melted together, they become big. New toasted baguettes. Cater your next event with Panera.
Defendant Scott Manis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay. May I see it, please? This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and
just
disgusting allegations.
So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Tricia.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Tricia's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor.
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we went
my
to a
view.
Concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, when interviewed. That's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period. Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but I...
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a...
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Your Honor,
that
there's
anything
nothing
inappropriate. Sir,
absolutely right.
understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child. As a father, would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's especially, sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many
but
times.
But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statements.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So, listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others.
And multiple accusations.
And being the person that, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, he was trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred.
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him.
That she falls off a bridge.
And he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never know.
Make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully they take some action on it then.
Well, hopefully they'll say, boing, I mean, she has a new boyfriend, and he's got his daughter who's living with him. They should be happy.
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Close the book and move on.
Close the book.
Yeah.
Her mother and her boyfriend should get a puppy together. Well, they should not until they get married. Not until they. But do something. This is a grown young woman.
Have a healthy adult relationship with your adult child.
Right. Yeah. Not over a car. But teenagers do crazy things for a car. I think that some teenagers would live with Satan if they bought.